Good evening, I'm Jonathan Higgins,
I'm Rich Carlson.
and we're the Scanner Guys, and we're live for this final Wednesday of the year. It is the final Wednesday of the year. Goodbye, 2020. Hello, 2021. The next time we're live, which will be great. And the next time we're live, I believe it's one of our viewers' birthday.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, so happy
Yeah.
birthday
Coming up.
to her coming
Yeah.
up. So, we made it through Christmas. It was a very quiet one for me, other than, the kitchen faucet springing a leak. That was interesting. We ended up, my wife and I ended up eating out. We went over to Sheets
Oh,
on Christmas Day.
your favorite restaurant.
Oh, it's a gas station restaurant. Yeah, we ended up going there. I originally had a meal planned, and so I was watching movies. We were watching movies during the day. It was just her and I. I mean, my
Yeah.
dad did come over in the morning for a couple hours, and then we watched a couple of movies. And then I went over to the kitchen, and there was a small puddle of water, and I'm like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Opened the cabinet underneath. Well enough, there was water down there. I shut off the shutoffs, and then I'm like, okay, this is great. An unexpected bill. This is we didn't do much for Christmas, and this is the gift we get for Christmas from the house.
Right.
So, and then I ended up first time replacing a kitchen faucet. So I ended up doing that on over the weekend. So we replaced that, and we got a new faucet for the kitchen. But the kitchen faucet should have it was what they did with this house is they flipped it. So everything is fairly new. For whatever reason, they didn't get the best faucet, and I ended up the thing with the faucets is you could replace
Yeah.
things inside of it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing with that, and let's just get a new faucet. And she said, I don't really like the faucet anyway. So I said, all right, let's just get a new faucet. Enough about me. How was your Christmas? Any haywire with the house?
No, actually, everything went well here. Nothing broke. The wife and I just kind of hung out at home. The kids, obviously, with COVID and everything, they can't travel. We can't travel, so we FaceTime with the kids for a couple hours and open up gifts on camera and all that. But I do have a plumbing story that you're gonna love. All right.
Okay.
Our old house was a 2-level house, okay, in a kitchen upstairs, and then there was a basement. Well, my wife, in her infinite wisdom, made a rice dish, which just didn't work. So she figured, okay, we'll put the remains down the garbage disposal. No, you cannot put rice in the garbage disposal, especially a big bucket of rice. It just got glommed up in there, and it just blocked it all up. So I figured, okay, I'm going to be real smart. I know where the clean out is in the basement. It was unfinished basement. So I figured I would just open up that clean out a little bit and holding a bucket there. So I would open it up just enough to set the dripping. And I must have turned it a quarter turn too much because the thing popped off my hand and I got drenched with 5 gallons of tepid water filled with rice. All up while I'm standing on a stepladder like this, just get total drenched with this crud. So that's my plumbing story. That's why I hire a plumber whenever I have an issue, because I'm not a plumber.
Yeah. Well, the thing is the kitchen faucet, was pretty easy. Looked pretty easy. The only thing is we have a double sink, and it's way back in there, so it's hard to reach, and it's not, you get the trash, not the trash, but the garbage disposal, and then you get the plumbing. You got that to contend with, so you got to crawl underneath, kind of tuck yourself underneath the kitchen counter there, and then you're basically feeling around trying to get that undone. But thankfully, it's done.
Yeah.
But we've got a good show tonight. So if any of you got any scanners for Christmas, we're going to go over some accessories to take a look at. to go with your scanner. So definitely this will be a good show for any new products or anything like that. And we thank you so much, guys, for joining us during the holiday week. We didn't expect to have as large of an audience as we have for the last 2 Wednesdays, with everybody being busy with everything. We appreciate you guys, making it a part your weekly ritual with joining us. We appreciate that. So let's dive into the slideshow. Tonight we're talking about great police scanner antennas and accessories, some of which are on the slideshow, some of which we're probably going to take a look at on the website as well. We want to remind you, we use this newsletter a lot for various things at Scanner Master. We use it for promoting new products, for sales, and of course, if there's any major changes in your neck of the woods, we like to inform you through our newsletter. So definitely sign up for the newsletter on our website, scannermaster.com. Right at the bottom of the page, you'll see a sign up for that. I see that some people got an SDS 100 or a 200 for Christmas. You guys are very, very lucky. Hoping to get another one of those 200s someday. I'm just amazed at the reception that I'm able to get on it. We'll talk about that a little bit more. We had a lot of new products in 2020 and some really cool things. We had the cup call, the desk call. We had the Uniden new GPS kit. We have a 16 port multicoupler receiver, and we also have a 4-scanner power supply AC adapter, and of course Rimtronics had a new product as well, which is the back of set antenna. So this is just 2020. Yep. What are we going to have for 2021? That's going to be an interesting thing. If there's any products that you would like to see Scanner Master carry, let us know. What Rich and I can do is we'll feed it up the food chain, see if we can carry it. I mean, because you guys have found things throughout your hobby of what you enjoy, and we would love to definitely see what's out there and see what we can be able to provide to all of our customers.
Yeah. A lot of the newer products that we've come, accessories-wise especially, have come as a result of suggestions from viewers and scanner listeners and scanner users saying, hey, we want this. I mean, the power supply thing. That was something that people have asked about, and when we were able to find it, we say, hey, we know people are going to want this, and it's been it's a great seller for us. For such a kind of a niche item, it's been really popular.
Yeah, it certainly has. We've had a lot of interesting products that have came out. Some products, that are purposed for something else, and it's actually a great thing for a scanner. Like this, this here, is meant for a cell phone, but it's phenomenal for the scanners. We still have some of these left on our website. This is the desk call. We do have those available on our website, so if you're looking to purchase some of those, we're going to go over that in the slideshow. Getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but let's take a look at some
It's
antennas.
not like we don't get off track once in a while,
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, this is the hugest hit antenna-wise, I think, in Scanner Master's history. The amount of time that I've... it's crazy that I've worked for Scanner Master for almost a little over a quarter of its time it's been in business.
Yeah.
And this was an antenna that, we came out with part of the Spectrum Force product line. It's available in SMA and Bnc. And it's one of our best-selling mobile antennas. I mean, it's not a huge sticker price.
Yeah.
You want to know something? This antenna is currently running the operations here in North Carolina right now. So that's how good of an antenna it was. I'm basically...
I used it for 6 months here at the house, my house.
Oh, that's funny. Yes, Chuck. I'll post that. Chuck, yes. Mailbox is full of emails. Yes. So during... I'll give you a little bit of insight, since you guys are part of the Scanner Guys family. Typically during the months November and December, we do email quite a bit, just because it's the final push. This is usually the busiest time of the year for Scanner Masters, so we're trying to make sure we're out there, whether it be social media, whether it be email blasts as well. So yeah, we'll go back to, for the remainder of the time, we typically email a lot during November, December. And then for the rest of the year, we email like once a month. So, so no worries, unless the owner of the company, tells me he wants me to promote like crazy. It's usually once a month.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we're not going to bombard you. But you're right. This is a fantastic antenna for the price.
Yeah, this is totally a fantastic antenna. And the other thing that I'm amazed with is it's got a smaller mag mount, and it's strong.
Yeah. I had a bit, when I buy a new car, I got 3 or 4 of these in my garage. And every time I buy a new car, eventually I'll get NMO mounts mounted, drilled into my vehicle. But for the first couple of weeks or maybe a month or so, I use these on my scanner so I can get going. And I had them placed on my new car, and then I drove across the country with these. And going through some of the western states, I mean, going through Wyoming, it's 80 miles an hour is the speed limit. So God knows how fast you're actually driving. And they stuck right on there with no problem. And the magnet's only the size of a $50.
Yeah, and this is also the antenna that I have on my truck as well. I didn't end up putting a permanent mount. You're welcome, Chuck. You're welcome. And thank you so much for being a part of our newsletter. We appreciate that. I mean, a lot of good stuff in there as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll tell you something. I have Interstate 85 that's right by my town here in North Carolina. And people think that that's the speed limit. I kid you not.
We had, when I was a police officer, we had Interstate 94 that ran through our town, and people thought that was the suggested speed.
Yeah, I could tell you, talking to my wife, ever since the COVID stuff kicked up, back in March, traffic hasn't returned to the highway.
Right.
I mean, she's an essential worker, so she was in every day, right through. There's no option for her to work from home. So she ended up, seeing the traffic dwindle down to nothing. It's picked up a little bit, but it's still not. And she says, they're going 85. If you're not going 85...
You're getting run over.
Yeah, exactly. So this antenna, I can testify that this antenna will go at those speeds.
Yeah, and it is a great antenna. It works really well. And when we moved into this house, it was too hot to get up in the attic for several months. So I popped a couple of these on a couple of my wife's cake pans and put them on top of a tall bookshelf here in my office and ran all my radios, plugged them into a multicoupler, one of them into a multicoupler, one into my ham radio. And I ran them up there for months until my wife was looking for her cake pans. And then, then they got in trouble for that, but they worked great. And I almost was tempted not even to bother putting the antennas in the attic.
Yeah, I was blown away by the reception. Basically, I'm 45 minutes out from the center of downtown Charlotte. Now, mind you, there's a regional trunk system, some of which is simulcast.
Yeah.
So if you're blessed with an STS 100 and 200, you know how much of a blessing those radios are for simulcast. So I'm running this antenna outside the house. I have it, positioned in a good spot. And then I'm running my SDS 200. I'm picking up all of the talk groups for the various police segmented police departments. What are they? Divisions, police departments in Charlotte. I'm picking up all the talk groups with no problem. I'm picking up Charlotte Fire. I'm picking up the EMS channels. This today with this antenna, with my SDS, I'm listening to Viper.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking up, as far south as Charlotte, and I'm picking up to the west Hickory, which is multiple counties over from me. I'm just blown away. The combination of mind you, this SDS 200. How much is it going for now? Sticker price.
$6.99.
$6.99, and I got it connected up to this antenna here, which is $19.95. It works great. So if you guys are ever in the market for an antenna for a temporary setup or something to throw on a rental vehicle, or you're in an apartment or a condo and you're not able to do any other antenna option, try this out. It's well worth it.
We've had a couple customers that have those window mount air conditioners in their house or condo or apartment, and you got the little baffle that keeps the air out from in the window. Put the antenna on the outside part of that air conditioner and run the wire in through that baffle and connect it to your scanner, and it works great. And we've had several customers that have done that. And there was a question on there from Kevin. How does it work, analog versus digital? The antenna has the analog versus digital has absolutely nothing to do with the antenna. Take a look at Kevin's one just above that. The antenna itself doesn't care if it's analog or digital. It's the frequency involved. So this antenna works really well on 800 UHF and VHF high band, and it works really well. It doesn't matter if it's analog or digital. Analog digital has nothing to do with the antenna. It's all about the frequency.
Mm-hmm. And this antenna, just so you know, it's got 12 feet of coax cable. It comes in with a Bnc or SMA connector. The antenna's height is 17 inches. So that gives you kind of the lowdown on everything. You can check that out on Scanner Master's website. But as Rich said, digital, analog, it's all about frequency. I can testify when I was in Massachusetts, which was a ton of analog, worked very well there.
Yeah.
I'm in a digital world now down here. Works really well here. So, I mean, it works well on the railroads. I'm sure, Rich, you could testify it works pretty well in the aviation as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and military and civil aviation. And like I say, it worked right here, and I was very tempted not to even bother putting antennas in the attic because they worked so well.
Yeah, so let's take a look at some other antenna options that we have. I skipped ahead. Let's go back one. So Rimtronics has been a big contender. Most of you probably remember Rimtronics with the Radio Shack label on it, 800 megahertz. So they were the brainchild behind making the original Radio Shack 800 megahertz antenna. Looks very much like, if we're looking at the screen, all the way over to the left there. That's what the Radio Shack antenna looked like on the screen. Right. And then with them, branding this as their own product line, and companies like us, Scanner Master, promoting this antenna and carrying it, we've had some influence with saying, boy, I wish this would work with the SDS 100.
Yep.
And lo and behold, they create an SMA antenna that works with the SDS 100.
Yeah. They did come out with a SMA antenna that didn't work with the SDS 100, that was intended for like the 436 and the 396. And then they came up with the one in the center, which does work on the SDS. It's trimmed out properly so that it fits on that little ridge around the antenna connector on their scanner. So, and if you have a 436 or a 396 and you're thinking about getting an SDS, that antenna will work on your existing SMA radio. So if you're thinking about getting an SDS in the future, get this antenna. It'll work fine on your 436 and your 396. And when and if you get an SDS down the road, you're all set.
Yeah, and also the newest antenna that just came out is the one with the 45-degree angle, which I'm trying to hold up. And the great thing about it is you can use this straight, as you can see here. You can do this angle, and you could also do it right to a 45-degree angle. This is great. So yet again, if you're in an apartment or a condo and you're not able to put an antenna on the outside of your home, and you're able to do one of these back of set antennas for 800 megahertz. So if you're got tons of 800 around here, definitely consider one of these Rimtronica antennas. And they have that rubber duck design that we're used to, and they're not super godly tall. I mean, there's a lot of antennas out there, Rich, you can testify, are super tall. And some of which, they're going to be, like if you're wearing a portable radio, you're going to be getting whacked, could be in the face because they're so tall.
If you're tall like me, a 12-inch long antenna is going to whack me on the midside. But if you're a short guy, or like my wife is a foot and a half shorter than I am, if she was wearing one of those, it would be whacking her in the ear. Yeah. So this is a standard length antenna, but it's a Rimtronics antenna, so it works really, really well in 800 megahertz. I don't know what's underneath the hood. I wish I had access to an X-ray machine to see what they've done under the hood on these antennas and why they work so darn well. But they work fantastic. Ask anybody who's got a Rimtronics antenna, they work awesome.
Yeah, and they certainly do. I don't know what's under the hood, but they do work really well. I mean, so if you're in an area where there's a lot of 800 megahertz, add this to your arsenal of antennas. Yeah. I mean, this is definitely worth trying them out, especially if you're a new SDS 100 owner and, you're blown away by the reception on digital and you've got a lot of 700 and 800 megahertz systems around you. Yeah, definitely, try one of these antennas. You may be blown away even more.
Yeah, absolutely. And where I live is way out in the country. And I mean, I've got a simulcast site that I can see out my back window, but that's pretty much all I can pick up. I go out in the front yard with one of these Rimtronics antennas, and I can pick up several different sites around the area that I'm not able to pick up with the standard antenna. And the other thing, too, is these antennas actually work pretty darn well on UHF, which I found out. They're not really intended for it, but they actually do work pretty well on UHF. They're not going to be particularly good on VHF, but they do actually work pretty well on UHF.
Yeah, certainly. Those are really good antennas. Yeah. You probably have seen this on our website if you've been looking around. This is a unique antenna that Rich Barnett had basically manufactured. It's one of these antennas that works on UHF and 8 and 700 megahertz. It's intended to be a low-profile antenna for the vehicle. So this is something, let's say you're not too crazy about putting an antenna on the outside of your vehicle. On the other side of the antenna that you see there on the image that's over to the left on that image, that's the antenna, and it's supposed to go up and down like that. And it's got a sticky pad in the back, which you'd peel off the protector on it, and then you would stick it to the window. So it's probably a step above, those old glass mount antennas that, because it's not going through the glass. It's just basically the antenna's all inside the vehicle. Mm-hmm. And it does have a pretty decent amount of coax cable to connect up to the radio. Ideally, it's going to work okay, but it's not as good as an antenna outside of the vehicle. But if this was something that you were looking for to put an antenna on the vehicle, but you didn't want to put an antenna outside the vehicle, then this could be an option.
Yeah, if you put it up in the upper corner of the windshield where it's not going to be in the way visually, and of course higher, and you're going to get pretty decent results. But yeah, you're right. If you can get an outside antenna, even a mag mount will work better than an inside antenna. But if you absolutely have to use an inside antenna, here you go. I had a guy who lived on the 30 or 35th floor of a high rise, and he stuck this on the inside of his window on his at his condo, and he says it worked really well for him.
Yeah, I mean, these are great alternatives. A lot of, you notice the common theme tonight is a lot of mobile antennas work as a really good base antenna when you have no other option. You know, you're not able to put in an antenna. I mean, there's tons of different antenna options. Rich and I are actually trying to get Scanner Master carry more base antennas. There's not enough of variety for base antennas that we're noticing on the website. I mean, we have, what is it? The Diamond Disc Cone is one of the more popular, right?
Yeah, it's hugely popular, and it's a great antenna, but we're always looking for new alternatives. You know, back in the day, I mean, my personal favorite was the ST2, and I love that antenna. But they're relatively fragile, and nowadays they're entirely impossible to get unless you want to pay a premium price on the secondary market because they haven't made them in 15 or 20 years. But back then, there were a whole lot of other scanner antennas, base antennas that were easy to come by. But nowadays, there's a lot less of them. And, you know, the disc cones are the really popular ones because they work really well on a bunch of frequencies, and they're pretty simple design to make and to operate and to install. But yeah, we'd love to have more of a variety, some lesser expensive ones, maybe some that are a little bit more compact that you can put up. But you know, like I said, the disc cone's a great antenna. It's just we'd like to have a few other choices.
Yeah, I put up the email address up on the screen because a lot of you may know of some antennas that you've used in the past or currently using that are really phenomenal for scanning. If you have any suggestions, email it over to us. What we can do is we'll take a look at it. We'll send it over to the powers over at Scanner Master and see if this is something feasible that we could carry in 2021. Yeah. I mean, the thing is you know, we want to definitely make your scanning experience better. I mean, to be able to have, I mean, the things that we all look for is one, something that's going to work really well, and two, it's affordable.
Yeah.
You know, of course, you know, you can spend, I've seen antennas, what are those large, what is those crazy?
Log periodic?
Yeah, they get, how much is the price tag on those?
Oh, I think some of them we have for, there's a couple models in there like for $12,000 or $14,000. I mean, they're huge, and the least expensive ones are like $1,200.
For the average Joe, that's not affordable whatsoever. Yeah. I mean, that's not affordable. That's not a good option. I mean, that's
I actually sold one of those to a guy. He wanted one, and I'm like, really? I tried to talk him out of it, and no, I want one of those antennas, and he never returned it. He bought it, and I'm assuming that he used it. He must have had a purpose for it. So,
wow, yeah, it's just, you know, we're looking for some affordable options, antenna wise. We're gonna switch gears, and we're gonna dive into some of those carrying cases and shack upgrades. So, you know, you can dress up a shack very easily, and it doesn't really cost an arm and a leg to do so. We're going to show you some options that are available to be able to do that. But first, let's talk about some carrying cases. So most of all of our handheld radios have a carrying case to go along with it. Let me just see. Do I have it? Hold on. This is a live show, as you can see.
You don't get this kind of radio all up and down the dial, right?
So here is the carrying case that I use for my GRE PSR 500. So this, I'm going to go to the widescreen so you can see Rich and I. Let me just go over here. So this is the soft leather. So it's a glove leather. This is a really good looking case.
Yeah.
Now, most of all of our cases are very similar. They have the plastic clear display. We do have for the speaker some holes there. And then there's openings for all of the buttons and jacks as well. So you can see on Rich's case that he's showing, and then this one here. And then we have a couple of different clip options. This is the the mounted belt clip. Rich has got the he's got the belt clip as well, but it's a swivel off, which is really great. So if you're having to take off your radio often, this allows you to be able to take it off fairly easy. And then the little bungee cord here, will keep the radio in. Usually they're pretty snug into the case. Yeah. But over time, it'll mold in to the radio. Let me show you.
It'll mold into the radio. It won't mold.
Yeah.
It'll
mold.
Meld into it.
Yes. So watch, this is mine here. And then I'll just pull this bungee cord and then put it.
Yeah, you put that around the antenna and then snap it on the back, and it keeps the radio from falling out of the case.
Yeah. And this is, this is great. I mean, it keeps the radio protected. I would say if you purchased or you were given an SDS 100 and you're using it all the time on your person, the best bet is to probably get a carrying case, because the good thing about it is it'll protect your investment. You look at that radio, it's an expensive radio. Do you want it to be all dinged up?
Just drop the case.
But yeah, I mean,
Rich, this is an SDS 100 case.
And that's the nylon.
That's the nylon one, and you notice it's got the ventilation holes for the SDS 100. It allows a place for the heat to escape out of it, and that was a suggestion that you and I made specifically for the SDS. Now I love the soft leather case, and of course, so they sent me the nylon one. But they work great, and we even asked them to make a little dip in the top of the case so it doesn't block the LED lights on it. I mean, that it's that attention to detail. That means that these scanner cases were designed by scanner users for scanner users.
Yeah, and I have another case for my, this is my 436 HP, and it keeps it protected. And as you can see here, the buttons are open. And then, of course, the flap for the GPS and USB is got an opening here. And, of course, I've got the swivel belt clip. And, I mean, like Rich said, it's developed. We basically have a company make these cases for us. They're based right here in the United States. Yep. So, you're buying an American-made product. And we try to keep a stock of these, and we have almost a case for almost every current radio that you can imagine.
Yeah, and some of the cases will fit multiple radios. So if you've got a 325 and a 125, of course, they're the same case. The SDSs and the 436 obviously are going to be custom because there's no other scanners like those. But there are a few scanners that share an external case that are the same. So the 325, the 125, the 75, the SR30, 95, and all that. If you got a 396, it also works on a 346 and a BR330. And I think there was even a Radio Shack Pro 137. That was the same case. And there's a few others like that. And then, of course, there's the Whistler GRE Radio Shack conglomeration of scanners that all have the same external case size. So.
Yeah, and that's a good thing about the carrying cases. They definitely protect the radio. I mean, that's a key thing. You want to make sure you protect the investment, and it's well worth it. So if you got one of these over the holidays, definitely take a look at scannermaster.com and take a look at the carrying cases that we do have. The quick overview, the thickness of the nylon and the soft leather is pretty equivalent. The hard leather is definitely going to be the most protection. It's a thick, bulky case. So if you like a thicker, bulky case, the hard leather is the route to go. If you like something that's not as bulky, either or, soft leather or nylon, your preference there.
The hard leather case is the same type of case that you see at a lot of police radios when the police carry the radios on a belt. When I was on the police department, that was the type of case that we provided because it does provide the most protection. It is bulkier, and it may not fit a cup holder particularly well. So if you're going to use it in a cup holder, you might want to consider one of the more pliable cases like the nylon one or the soft leather. I do like the soft leather case. I think that's my personal favorite, and I wish they would have sent me one of those.
Yeah, I do. I do have. I do like the soft leather as well.
Yeah.
I have used the hard leather, but the soft leather is basically a fan favorite of mine as well. So let's take a look at our next slide here, and we're going to talk about the desk call, which I was able to produce a video earlier in the year with the desk call, which is right here. This works really well. So if you've got a simple, basic shack, where you've got a portable radio and a mobile radio, and your portable radio just sits on the desk, and you're looking for something to kind of bring it up, you can use this. Put the radio on that, and you've got it so it'll stand up, and you can adjust it and so on, and it looks really cool. I mean, the great thing about having a shack, big or small, you can certainly dress it up, and this is definitely the cup call certainly does that. Desk call, excuse me, certainly does that, and this is certainly a great product that we started carrying here at Scanner Master. And it works really well with almost all the radios. The SDS 100 works better with the smaller battery door versus the larger battery door. That's the only radio that will be right up front with you that's not the best. But all the other radios, anywhere from the 325 to the Whistler radios, the Whistler handhelds, works great.
Do you see Joe's question at 35 after about the 436 case?
Yeah, Joe.
You've got a 436 case there, right?
So what is...
Does
Joe
it have
P.
the same type of... Yeah, Joe P. Yeah. Does it have this type of belt clip on it, or does it have the fixed clip on the 436 case?
Yeah, Joe. This is the soft leather case, so it's the same belt clip as what Rich has. It swivels on and off. There you go, and just slide it back on again. Yeah, I love, this is the other thing, I love these, especially when I'm out rail fanning, because when I'm walking, I'll put the portable radio on my side, and then when I'm stopped somewhere, I will take the radio out, bring it up so I can hear it, or if I have the scanner blaster, I just leave it on my side. But yeah, this is the belt clip, Joe, for the 436, and it's the same belt clip as the SDS, which I'm not too sure where I put that case.
It's in there.
I know I have the case somewhere. But anyway, yes, it definitely is the same.
Cool.
All right, so let's take a look at some other goodies that you can consider for accessories. These mounts are certainly very popular. We helped design this at Scanner Master, the Spectrum Force desk mounts for portable radios. This kind of gets them nice and neat and organized, as you can see in the background in Rich's shack there. He's got a couple of different products from Spectrum Force. Up on the top there, you can see his portable radios are lined up in order there. And then on the next slide, you're going to see the mobile version, which Rich also has there, with a stack of radios that fits his SDS 200, 436, and a 436. And then that looks like a 15X or a 15?
BCT 15, 536, 536, and SDS 200.
Yeah. Yeah, and it fits all the radios and even fits the taller SDS 200. You can see that it's quite tall there. Yeah. In front of me, which you can't see on camera, I have the 2-stack. So I have the SDS 200, and then I have a 536 just below it. And I love it. It's basically, it's there, and then I have above me, I do have some radios above me. But yeah, these are really neat. I mean, they work perfect. They kind of organize your shack, whether it be portables or the base units. The great thing about the portables, let me just go back a slide here, just so we can take a look at this. You'll see here that there's it's not so good on this image, but there's openings for the wiring and there's also places where you can clip the radios on. Let me just see if I have. I don't know where I put mine. I have a single one, which I'm not too sure where it is. Let's see if it's in one of my drawers. I don't have one to show you. But basically, you can kind of see in the image there that the radio is sitting there on the... there's a cutout in the back. If you guys remember the 396, it has the little... I'm not too sure if, Rich, you have one to show?
I don't have a 396, but I got a 436,
Perfect.
which has a similar... The 396 has got a metal stud on the back, whereas the 436 and the SDS has got a plastic stud, and it sticks out the back. And that rack has got a little slot that this just kind of fits right in and holds right on there.
Yeah, so you basically can drop it in, and you're all set. The same thing if you're using one of these carrying cases.
Mm-hmm.
You take this off, and you can drop it in. Same thing. So you don't have to fiddle around with taking off the carrying case and all that. You can leave the radio right in the carrying case. The other great thing, it has openings to be able to feed the power cord or programming cable, or both, depending on the age of your radio. You remember a lot of the older radios, the power cord and the programming cable weren't one of the same. So they are, with the older radios, it was two different things. Your power cord was your power cord, and your programming cable is your programming cable. But now, with a lot of the newer radios, they're both the same. But you have openings for that as well. I mean, these are certainly really handy. I'll show those one more time.
Yeah, and once again, they were designed for scanner users by scanner users. You can see the holes. Of course, I'm pointing at the screen here. You can see the holes there between the two radios where you can run the wire through and then into there. So you don't have wires coming up all the way around. And if you like to hide wires like I do, I hate to see wires. And that allows you to hide the wires.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks really good. And then we'll take a look at the mobile radios again. That looks really good as well. Just being able to have, the wires yet again are all in the back. And then it uses the same mounting screws as you would on a mobile setting. And this all comes with your radio, these mounting screws on the side. So you just pull those out of the box if you still have them, and then you just mount the radios in. As you can see, with the 4-stack, we have two SDS 200s in there. So it's able to accommodate it. It looks like it would be able to probably accommodate 4 SDSs if you're that rich and able to get 4 of them. But yeah, these look really good. It's that powdered black. If you're looking to take a look at these, in the product description, not product description, I'm thinking products, but in the description of this YouTube video, there is links to the various things we're talking about tonight. So definitely take a look in the description. You'll be able to see it there. We'll continue on with the slideshow. Multicouplers. These are a blessing for people to have multiple radios. And the good thing about it is we have it in a couple of different form factors. A 4-port.
By the way, Steve has been asking specifically about this. So, Steve, this is for you.
Yeah, so there's 4-port, 8-port, and 16-port. Now, 16-port is a lot of money. So it's a huge investment. So 4-port multicoupler is a lot more affordable. 8-port, it's going to cost a little bit. But the 16-port is very, very expensive.
And these are professional devices. These are not toys. They're not junk. These are professional grade equipment And the reason why you want to use a multicoupler versus just like a T-splitter or something is that the multicoupler has got an internal preamp on it, and it amplifies the signal just enough to overcome the connector loss and the insertion loss. Plus, it isolates all of the ports from each other so that you don't have one scanner interfering with the other scanner, and it allows you to share one antenna amongst many radios without losing signal strength. And it works really, really well. And like Dale says, if you think you need the 4-port, you probably are going to need the 8-port eventually. So if you might want to hedge your bets and get the 8-port to start with. If you got one or two, if you got 2 scanners, yeah, okay, the 4-port's going to do well. But if you already have 4 scanners, you're hooked into this, you're probably going to get more scanners down the road. You might want to start with the 8-port now and not have to deal with trying to sell the old one and get the new one.
And the other thing that they work out well, too, is if you're building a shack and you're kind of playing it out and you have 2 really good antennas, you can figure out how many ports you need just by figuring out how you want to distribute the signal for the 2 antennas. Maybe you want to have 2 radios on one antenna and then the rest of them on another antenna. So the great thing about it is if you eventually get like a 4-port or an 8-port and you decide that you've acquired another antenna, you just have to figure out what your need is. Right now, what I have in my shack is I do have an 8-port multicoupler, and I also have a 4-port. Now, the 4-port is connected to the antenna that I've jerry-rigged on the outside of my home, which is or it's the other way around, sorry. The 8-port's connected up to the antenna that's outside of my home, and then I have an omnidirectional 800 megahertz antenna that's inside that's connected to the 4-port. Now, the other cool thing about it is I'm not using all the ports, so I have drops with jumper cables that are just dangling off of each one of these. So if I want to connect up a portable scanner, I can just connect it right up. The other thing, too, is we do carry multiple lengths for the jumper cables.
I was just about to mention that. You took the words out of my mouth. Typically what happens is the people buy the multicoupler, and then the day after they get delivered, they call us and say, oh, I need jumper cables.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is now we have the 6-foot jumper, we have the 3-foot jumper, and we have a 1-foot jumper. So what you want to do is plan this all out, where you're going to put the multicoupler, how far of a distance. Of course, the shorter the cable, the better, but don't go too short because then you have no movement to be able to move your shack around. So you want to make sure you have enough of length. But the key thing is get the appropriate cables when you buy the multicoupler. I mean, that's going to be key. When you buy the multicoupler, if you're not buying jumpers or you don't have any plan for jumpers, you're going to have a multicoupler that you're not going to be able to connect to anything.
Right, yeah, you're going to be calling us up. And the question came up from Tim, is there's an SMA version of it. No, unfortunately, it only comes in BNC. You can get cables that have a BNC on the multicoupler end and an SMA on the other one. Unfortunately, we don't have those cables and jumpers. We have the adapters that would make them work. But you can get those cables if you buy them. So, but yeah, there are options for that. And, I wish we had those, but yeah, don't forget the jumpers.
Yeah, the jumpers. So the other thing too, is if you're doing something like what I have one multicoupler connected to one antenna and one connected to another. What I would recommend is going to like a store like Harbor Freight Tools and get the different colors of electrical tape, the red, green, black, white, and so on. Well, black is not going to be really helpful with black coax cable, but the other colors, and label your coax cable. So like I have one coax cable drop, it's with a red, and then I have another one that's white. So I know which multicoupler it's connected to. And then, of course, just by looking at the back of the scanner, okay, that's connected to this multicoupler, which is the one that's connected to the 800 megahertz, and the other one's connected to the all band. So simple things like that will save you stress of, okay, is this cable connected? Then you're going to follow the cable, to the multicoupler to figure that out. Although, there's 6 foot or 3 foot or 1 foot. A lot of times it's a lot easier to look at a color and then know exactly what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Those little rolls of color tape work great. I've also used, you go to the auto parts store or Harbor Freight, and you get that package of multicolor wire ties. And I'll put the yellow wire ties on one jumper and the blue one on another one and a green one on the other. In fact, I've got some cables here, which I've done the same thing. These aren't antenna cables, but, put little wire ties on them so I know which one is which. So if you got a lot of wires and cables, if you were to take a look inside my cabinet back there, every coax cable and every audio cable and every programming cable has got different color ties on it. And the multicouplers I've got a red multicoupler, a white multicoupler, and a blue multicoupler. So a piece of red, white, and blue tape on each one. And then all the jumpers coming off of that one have the same color wire ties. So I know that that's coming off the blue multicoupler going into that radio. So it just allows me to trace the wire without having to trace the wire.
The other thing, if you really want to get dorky, is one of these label makers. So not only you can flag the cables and you can put text, you could put, 800 megahertz antenna, port number 1, port number 2. You could really get down to a amazing, yes, just like what Rich is showing you. You can start with the label maker. These label makers don't go for a heck of a lot of money. It's usually you're spending money. They get you on these cartridges, because you got to keep purchasing the cartridges. Just like
it's like buying a printer. Buying the ink or the toner cartridges. They'll sell you the printer for $100, and they'll have the color cartridges, but it'll cost you $300 to replace the cartridges. It's cheaper to buy a new printer.
Yeah, and that's the thing with that. And then let's say you got a really small setup. This is the option to go with. Yeah. The SP1300. So basically how this works is you see there's an input connection there. So you would run your antenna coax cable to the input. You would connect output A to a back of one of your scanners. So it would connect directly to that scanner. And then you probably want to do this on a double stack. Like if you have 2 radios stacked. Yeah. So then output A requires a jumper. So you'd run that coax cable jumper to your second radio. This allows you to connect one antenna to 2 radios. It's not the most expensive option, but it's the best option if you've got just 2 radios.
And if you're in a relatively strong signal strength area, this does not have an amplifier. It does have an isolation between the 2 radios. It does provide isolation, but it doesn't provide any type of application. So there will be a little bit of loss with these things, just to be upfront and honest with you. They work great in most applications, but if you've got 2 radios. But like I say, you got more than 2 radios, go with the multicoupler for sure.
Yeah, so that's something that's very simple. You can see there, it's pretty straightforward. It's basic. I would strongly recommend this if you've got a small shack. And as Rich said, if you're in a strong signal area, you don't have to worry about signal loss.
Right.
Let's see what else we have here in the slideshow. And we mentioned this earlier. This is a product that we just started carrying this year. Yet again, we go back to the stack of radios. Like, for example, Rich's stack that's behind him of mobile radios. They're all Uniden brand, so they'll work with this type of adapter. So what Rich has done is he's used one adapter will power all 4 radios. As you can see, there's 4 plugs, so it'll plug into each radio.
Yep.
If you have 3 stack of radios and a multicoupler, you can use the power cable for 3 of those, and then the same power cable for the multicoupler.
Yeah, absolutely. And the power adapter is a little bit higher power than the one that would come with the radios. So it can safely power 4 scanners or 3 scanners in a multicoupler without a problem.
Yeah, and this is something if you're running out of real estate for power plugs,
Yeah.
this is definitely a tool that you can get. It's well worth it.
Yeah, you've only got one thing plugged into a wall out instead of 4. And it really does clean stuff up, and especially if the radios are close enough together where you can do that. Don't expect to use one of these things with the radio over here and then another one over there someplace. But it does work really great on something like this.
Yeah, that certainly is a good thing for those shacks. So we're going to talk a little bit more about GPS kits. Now, the GPS kit was a new product this year. I just recently completed a video series about the new Uniden GPS kit. Now, this is a whole different show, which we've actually produced. Before I get too far off, we had a question about multicouplers.
Yeah. What's a multicoupler? So I was just starting to type it out while you were talking there, so I guess I don't have to finish typing that answer out. A multicoupler is a device that shares one antenna to multiple radios, and it has an amplifier built into it to overcome the connector loss, and it isolates the radios from each other. So basically, it's a much better splitter than a splitter, because it does provide amplification to overcome the connector loss, and it provides great isolation between the two radios so they don't interfere with each other.
And you can see right on the screen the couple of multicouplers there. So you can see, if we look at the multicoupler on the top of the screen, it's got a Bnc connection. That's where your antenna lead would run into. And then you would see the 4 Bnc connections below. That's where you would run jumper cables. So that would allow you to feed 4 radios. And the same thing for the one below. You see on the top and bottom, there's a total of 8 Bnc connectors. And then there's one lonely Bnc connector on the side, and that is for the antenna input.
Yeah. I'm pointing at it on the screen here. See where I'm pointing? So the 1 is where the antenna goes into, and the 8 are the ones that the radios goes out to. So it goes into GOZINTO, goes into.
Mm-hmm. And let's take a look at a quick overview on GPS. So basically, if you're using this. Using a Uniden scanner in a vehicle, you can connect up to a GPS, and it would allow you to have your scanner magically program itself. So if you have the full nationwide database of an SDS or a 436 or a 536 or even a Home Patrol 1 or 2, you can purchase this optional GPS, and this would allow you to run full database, and then it would turn things on and off as you travel. We have a whole show that we aired earlier in December. If you're interested in the GPS, you can learn more about it. We go over how it works, and then we also talk about the components as well that are in the box and what they go to. There's a lot of components on the screen there, but you're not going to end up using all of those depending on what radio you have.
Yeah, you might be using just one device or one part of this, the little black box and the white cable, or you might be using 3 or 4 parts of it, depending on the scanner you've got. We watched that video that Jonathan put together. It explains everything about how this thing works, and it makes life a lot simpler. It looks a lot more complicated than it really is.
Yeah, and that's something that you can consider if you're using a scanner in your home. You don't need the GPS. This is only for a mobile operation. All right, so let's take a look at what else we have here. Whoa, I just went a little bit too quick. All right, so we just want to remind you of the Scanner School, session number 158, The Secrets are in the searches. And we've talked about this, in previous shows for the scanner guys. Our friend over at the Scanner School, scannerschool.com, Phil, walks you through the steps on knowing how to use your scanner for searching for new frequencies, from the pre-programmed search ranges to those search modes, and creating your own searches as well. So Phil over at the Scanner School, he's a part of the Scanner Guys family. So make sure you check out his podcast. This podcast just dropped yesterday. Wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure you look up the Scanner School. He's got so much great stuff, great interviews, and so on. So if you're interested in podcasts, definitely check out the Scanner School.
Yeah, he does some really good stuff. I've seen a bunch of his stuff.
Also, we want to remind you, if you're in the market for one of these unication pagers, make sure you check out East Coast Pagers, your emergency alert specialist. East Coast Pagers is an authorized unication dealer and proud to support public safety professionals, businesses, and individuals.
And the scanner guys.
And the scanner guys as well. So give them a call at 877-231-PAGE or visit their website, eastcoastpagers.com. All right, so we're going to talk about, you'll never guess the scanner we're going to talk about next.
I wonder which one this is going to be.
This is a favorite of Rich's and I's, and we've coined it as the transportation scanner. There it is, the 125 AT. And this is what we coined as a transportation scanner because it works well on railroads, aviation, marine traffic, works well on all those things. So if you're a fan of all those things, you can listen to those communications. With aviation, it's not only just commercial aviation, it's military air, all the railroad channels, marine channels, and it also works on analog, conventional VHF and UHF. So if you're in an area where they're still using analog, Rich, tell me a little bit more about this radio.
Okay, so the 125 is absolutely ideal for this type of stuff, especially if you're out in the field. It's tiny, it's small. If I had a shirt pocket, it would fit in there, okay? And it does really well. And it's got 500 channels, which is more than enough when you're out rail fanning or you're out watching airplanes at the airport. It's got service search. So you can pop it into the service search and just search the railroad channels or search the aviation channels. It works really well on aircraft for both the civilian and the military side, which I use it for all the time. And when I go rail fanning, it's there. If I don't have a pocket, I just clip it onto my shirt. It's right there. It's not very heavy. It's light. I can run around all day with it sitting there. And it really, of course, it gets tangled up in my headphone wires. But and plus, it's not bad on the batteries. I can run a set of AA batteries. It runs on two regular AA batteries. You can use rechargeables or you can use alkalins, and you can get a good 4 or 5 hours or more off a set of batteries. So keep some spares, of course. It only uses 2, so you'll be fine. And, of course, you can also power it off the USB port on the side of the radio and plug it to any USB charger for either charging or operating the radio. It also supports scanner channel names, so you can program names on the channels that you programmed into it. And if you're using it for PL and DPL type channels, you can program those in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a phenomenal radio. I mean, it's a great price. It's available through ScannerMaster. You can check it out at scannermaster.com under scanners. And that radio is $129.95, $130, and it works great for analog, conventional stuff, and it works well if you're a rail fan, if you're into aviation or marine traffic. It's an all-around good scanner. And the other thing, too, it's great to field program, really simple. You can also program it through a computer as well. And the programmable PL tones and DPL tones is certainly handy as well. And 500 channels, 10 bakes, 50 channels. a bank, you can't go wrong with the 125 AT.
And even though it does have the railroad service search, what I do is I have the first 100 channels programmed with the railroad channels on the channel numbers. So when I hear the train crew say, "Hey, go to channel 36," I just go to channel 36 on my scanner, and I don't have to go and figure out, okay, channel 36 is, let's see, 160 point. I don't have to figure that out. I just go to 36 on the radio. It's that simple. And I just drop the radio. But it's a nice, durable radio. So
yeah. There's a question here about, is it receive any better on aviation versus the SDS 100? Have you tried aviation on the SDS 100, Rich?
I have. I think the 125 does a really good job on aviation. The SDS 100 does work, pretty well on aviation, but I think the 125 does a little bit better. Remember, the SDS 100 was designed specifically for digital and specifically for digital simulcast. So that's where it absolutely shines. It's phenomenal on that. The analog reception on the SDS is a little more pedestrian. So you're probably going to have a little bit better aviation results with the 125 since it was designed more for that type of thing.
All right, I see a conversation going on in our chat there about going to a big box store and getting a scanner. The thing about that, Todd, if you go to the big box store and buy it from them, you're not going to get the support and the knowledge of Scanner Master. That's the benefit when you purchase any of the scanners from Scanner Master. You get the knowledge and expertise of Scanner Master at Walmart. They don't know a thing about scanners. You're lucky if they know about the vast majority of the products that they work in the department. So I would strongly recommend, taking a look at scannermaster.com. Those big box stores, they sell a whole bunch of things. They're not experts at any one of them.
Right.
At Scannermaster, we sell just scanners, and that's all we do. And we do have the 125 AT in stock at the moment of this broadcast. So definitely take a look at scannermaster.com. We'll ship it off to you, and you'll have it within a few days. Yeah.
And like Jonathan's right, it's the what you're going to get is the support above and beyond what anybody at Walmart. They you go to Walmart and you ask them for a scanner, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, kitty litter, that's an aisle 7." That's what you're going to get. If you order 125 from us or you need any other type of scanner, we know what it's all about. We are scanner people. We're going to get you the right stuff. And we're not going to try to sell you something you don't need.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. I mean, that's the thing, we're one-stop shop. A lot of these big box stores are just going to carry the scanner. They're not going to carry any of the accessories. And you're not going to get carrying cases. You're not going to get, options for antennas.
You're not going to be able to call Walmart to ask them how to program the darn thing.
Nope. And then the other thing that what we do is when you do call Scanner Master, the thing is the first question that rolls off, where'd you purchase this from?
Yeah.
And we can verify, we can look and look in our system just by looking at the caller ID or grabbing your name. We can look in our system. Yep, you purchased this from us. We're going to spend some time with you because you spent time ordering from us. We'll be happy to help you. And the great thing about it is we have all the accessories from cases to programming, software, and the whole boatload.
Yeah, absolutely. So, buy your scanners from us. Buy your kitty litter from Walmart.
Yes, we don't carry kitty litter. That's for sure.
No.
All right, so we're getting into some digital upgrades and programming services. Now, you may have received a new radio, and you're like, how the heck do I program this? Or, you got a radio, and, I got DMR in my area. Mm-hmm. What do I do now? So we're going to cover this in this segment. Yeah, that's right. I like, before I go any further, yes, Scanner Master is not the Amazon of scanners. We are basically a small business. So, when you're supporting Scanner Master, you're supporting a small business. There's only, right now, for the scanner only dealers, they're dropping off like flies.
Yeah.
We spoke about, what was that, last week, in our year in review, we lost one of the main key players.
Yeah, Universal hung it up. So, it's just there's just a few of us out there, and the small businesses are the ones that support your little league teams and that kind of stuff. Amazon and Walmart, they're not gonna do that kind of stuff, and they have nobody you can call to help with after sales support like we do. And they don't have these great shows like we have.
No, they don't, and that's certainly something to keep in mind. We'll continue on with the slideshow here. So we've got Pro Voice, DMR, and NextEdge. These are all additional digital formats, and you may or may not need them.
Yeah.
And these are upgrades on the unit and radios. Why are they upgrades, Rich?
Well, because they don't come with the unit and radios to begin with. DMR, NXDN, and Pro Voice are different digital modes, and if they included these modes on all the radios, then everybody is going to pay for them when most people don't need them. So it's the type of thing where if you need it, you buy it. If you don't need it, you don't have to pay for it. And if they included these three modes on all the radios that were capable of it, you'd be paying an extra $150 or so for that radio, and you may never use that. So it's a little more of an a la carte type of thing. And if you don't like Sal, you don't buy the Sal. If you don't need DMR, you don't buy the DMR. So, and the advantage to the way Uniden does that over the way Whistler does it, because Whistler does provide NXDN and DMR on the TRX series, but they don't trunk track properly on those systems. So if you're doing a DMR or a NXDN trunking system, you're much better off with the Uniden radio. And if you need Pro Voice, you have to get a Uniden radio because the Whistler radios just don't do Pro Voice.
Quick question. Scanner Master is located in Holliston, Massachusetts. So we're just about 45 minutes outside of Boston. We don't have a store, so we do everything strictly over the phone and online. That's the other thing with Scanner Master is you're calling one of us, scanner experts, when you call up. So you're calling the 1-800-722-6637 number. You're getting a scanner expert like Rich or myself on the phone. We're going to help you. Whether it be purchasing a scanner or you've already purchased a scanner from Scanner Master or you're looking for something for your scanner or this right here, this slide. Do I need DMR? Do I need NextEdge? Do I need Pro Voice? We're going to be able to look that up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll tell you right off the top whether or not you actually need those. And if you don't need it, we're not going to sell it to you. We're not going to try to sell it to you if you don't need it. So we're very good at using that database. We know how to read that thing really well. And if you're not really versed in how the radio reference database operates, we're both global administrators for that database. So we know that thing inside and out. We are on that thing hours every day. We know how the darn thing works. We'll be able to tell you whether or not you need any or all of these updates or none of them.
Yeah, we're definitely going to look at that and be able to see what you need. And the other thing too is we're going to be honest with you. If you need just an analog scanner, we're going to tell you right up front. If there's digital coming down the pike, we're going to tell you that as well. I mean, we're in that database all the time. I think that's why. I'm sure Lindsay loves that because that's tons of web traffic on his website. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and one quick remark with Pro Voice: if they're not using Pro Voice now, where you're at, they won't be in the future because they no longer sell the Pro Voice technology for two-way radios. So it's an obsolete technology. So if they're using Pro Voice now, they're going to use it now, but if they're not using it by now, they're not going to use it in the future, so you don't have to worry about future-proofing it. DMR and NXDN are mostly business operations around the country. DMR is hugely popular with things like shopping malls, hospital security, campus operations. The golf course that I live on uses a DMR system. The shopping mall down the road does, that kind of stuff. NXDN is used more by businesses that are in a wide area. Things like in my area, there's a NXDN trunking system where there's a lot of school buses, aggregate haulers, and those type of operations are using NXDN. Occasionally, you're going to see police and fire operations in some areas, just because to buy a DMR or an NXDN two-way radio is cheaper than buying a P25 radio. So you get small towns, little Mayberry type towns. Sometimes, small counties will buy a DMR or NXDN system just because it's cheaper than getting into P25.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly, we can look into all that and be able to see what's needed. But yeah, I mean, if in doubt, give us a call. We'll give you that number a little bit later on in the presentation and the email address to email your questions. Now, another service that we provide, and this is the original company that did this. This was actually, Rich and I were on the phone discussing doing an SD card replacement. So we're the original company that came up with this. So if you have any of these radios, the SDSs, the Home Patrols, the 436 or 536, and you're not computer savvy, and you want us to update the database and create a favorites list and put the latest and greatest firmware on that SD card, we can do that all for you. The SD card replacement program starts at $59.95, and we format these SD cards as they are ordered. So, depending on what radio you have, we'll put together all the files that are needed on let's say it's an SDS 200, we'll put in all the files that are needed there. We'll put in the latest firmware. We'll put in the latest database. And we will create a favorites list for your local city or town with police, fire, and EMS for that local county.
Yep.
So it's ready to go once you replace the SD card. No having to send the radio to us. It's certainly a phenomenal service. So if you're not technically savvy, this is a different route to go for keeping your scanner up to date.
And this is just something that Jonathan and I just started chatting about, and we came up with this idea, and it's been one of the biggest selling products that we've had over the last 4 years now that we've been doing that since we came up with that.
I mean, it's been quite a while.
Yeah, and it has been a phenomenal seller for us. And for that $59.95, you'll get your one county and the updated database and firmware. If you want additional counties, we do a couple more of them for $20 a piece. It really is a great thing if you don't have a Windows computer and can't do it yourself, or you just don't feel like it, or it just totally confuses you. We have some people that, they've got all the capabilities of doing it themselves, and we try to suggest to them to do it, and they say, no, you know what, just you do it. It's,
Yeah, because some people just don't have the time. Yeah. They just want to be able to listen to the radio. They don't want to have to worry about connecting it up to the computer and all that business. They just want to be able to plug and play, pretty much.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what this is. So you take your database scanner and take the batteries out if it's a handheld, and the SD card is right there in the back of the radio. This is a 436. You just slide that little metal clip over. The SD card kind of rotates out. You pull the SD card out. You put the new one in. Close up the radio. Turn it on. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to update the firmware of the radio, and it'll only do that the first time you put after you put the SD card in, and then it'll go right into scanning once it's done updating the firmware. The second time you turn the radio on, it'll just start scanning.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a great service. I mean, you can take advantage of. And once again, I'll put that slide up on the screen. So it covers all the radios there, the SDS 100 and 200. the Home Patrol 1 and 2, the 436 and 536. And when you're ordering that on the website, you're going to indicate what radio you're looking to get an SD card for. And you're also going to tell us what county you're looking to get for your setup and optimization for your favorites list. So there's a lot of good stuff out there. And those are some of our those services. We also have Hometown Programming, which is a mail order service, which you can take advantage of as well. There's more details under programming on scannermaster.com for that. If in doubt, give us a call. We'll make sure that the scanner is capable of what you're trying to monitor.
Absolutely. And if you have a non-SD card based scanner and it's relatively recent, chances are we can program it for you. And if you're not sure if your scanner is going to work in your area, like Jonathan said, call us first and we'll tell you. We'll ask you what type of scanner you have. We'll ask you what your zip code is or the county that you're in, and we'll make sure that scanner is actually going to work there for you.
All right. Right now we're going to switch this over to you guys. You guys are going to lead the conversation with your questions. I'm just going to go through a couple of slides here before we do that. So post your questions in the comments. I'll be happy to answer any of those questions right now, live during the show. We want to remind you, stupid scanner tricks. Send us your photos, hints, and tricks. Email them to Email them to thescannerguys@gmail.com. Thescannerguys@gmail.com. We'll be happy to see those photos. Next week, we are doing mobile radio shacks. So if you have photos of those, send them our way. We may feature your shack, your mobile shack during the show. So make sure you send that over to us. We'll be happy to. We're going to talk about some of the things that you can do and various things, tips and things. So we're going to help you with that next week. Let's remind you, if you have additional questions that we're not able to get to during the show, you can email us at support@scannermaster.com. You can call us at 1-800-722-6637. And we're open Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We are open tomorrow, but we are closed on New Year's Day.
Right.
So definitely get your call in before the weekend tomorrow. We'll love to get your call. Yep. We are open.
We may close a little early tomorrow, depending on what's going on. But we should be here most of the day tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely call early. If you're chomping at the bit to talk to us before the long weekend, call early. We open 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and in normal days we're open until 4 p.m. Shop us 24/7 at scannermaster.com. Even after business hours, you can do your shopping through the website. If you have additional questions, give us a call when we're open. And I kind of let the cat out of the bag. Alicia's birthday. We are talking about mobile shack setups. That'll be Wednesday, January the 6th of 2021. So we will be talking about mobile shack setups. We'll just show what our shacks look like, and we'll talk about, what scanners you can consider and various things. So it's kind of be an overview of what you can do in the vehicle. We will be live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. And as always, the Scanner Guys are brought to you by Scanner Master. Train Aficionado Live is also live next week, Monday, January the 4th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We are talking about discovering forgotten railroads. You got to work on that slideshow for that. But we're going to be talking about forgotten railroads. Alicia, we could probably get you a virtual cake. I see your comment there. We'd love to get you an actual cake. That would be super cool if we could send it digitally. And make sure
you give us a couple more years and we might be able to.
Make sure you hit the subscribe button on the Scanner Guys page right now as you're watching on YouTube. And also subscribe to the Train Aficionado YouTube page as well. Let's turn the show over to you guys. We can answer some of your questions regarding scanners.
Absolutely. First thing, I got a little bit of scanner news for people who live in some of the larger metro areas. one of the many additions to the recent stimulus legislation that was passed by Congress and signed by the president this last week was a withdrawal of the T-band auction. So if you are in an area like LA, Chicago, Boston, Philadelphia, other areas that use the T-band, Pittsburgh, that use the frequencies between 470 and 512 for police, fire, or EMS. There was a law saying that they would have to move from those frequency ranges and go to other channels, and then those frequencies were going to be auctioned off. That has now been canceled, and eventually the FCC will have to pass rulemaking so that the agencies that are on there will be able to stay there and maybe even expand on there as well. So there are, so that if they're using T-band now, they can now stay there, and eventually they may start reallocating channels back onto the T-band for more users. So I know in some areas they have already started to switch off. The Chicago area, a lot of the agencies there have started to switch off the T-band. Now they don't have to. So that's big news for people in those areas.
Yeah, that certainly is. I know there was a lot of concern about, having to evacuate the band.
Yeah, absolutely. And the agency that I worked in just before I retired, one of the last projects I worked on was the transition to the state the state digital radio system because of this thing. And they finished that project after I retired based on my original plans. And now 6 years later, they're like, "Oh, never mind. You don't have to spend all the money that we've already spent." And of course, we're never going to get paid back for that. So.
Yeah, which is so crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a bunch of people, a lot of people checking in. We're not going to be able to acknowledge everybody's check-in this time around. There's just way too many. But we do read each and every comment from each and every commenter. So thank you there. So, of course, we got to say hi to Chris. He's our first commenter every week. So howdy. And I know Chris is waiting on his Chris had ordered a couple of antennas, and one of them got kind of delayed in the mail. So it's on the way. His other one has arrived. So that's great. And Chris, I'm sure your other antenna will be there really soon. Apparently, there's getting some big weather in a couple different places. Buffalo is raining. I thought it snowed in Buffalo this time of year.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I guess from what I learned weather-wise in the Northeast, they had a whole bunch of snow. Then temperatures went up to the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
They had well over a foot of snow in certain areas, and the temperatures went up to the 60s. So, rapid melting. Creating an issue with both Rich and I are rail fans, and the Hoosick Tunnel had a small landslide by one of the entrances. So no issues inside the tunnel this time, but they had a landslide just with all the rapid melting of snow. Caused a little bit of a mess there. They had to clean that up. But yeah, the weather is crazy. One day it's in the 60s, next day it's dropped down to frigid temperatures. It's all crazy.
Well, one thing we used to say in Chicago is if you don't like the weather, just wait a couple minutes, it's going to change. So we're talking about Chicago Rays in Chicago, and it's cold there. And let's see here. We got people checking in from Ontario, from South Dakota, San Diego. Dale loves the hat. So if you ordered a Scanner Guys hat, they have started to arrive. This is I forget the color on it, but this is the Scanner Guys hat. So they are starting to show up. Mine showed up in yesterday's mail. So if you haven't checked your mail in a couple of days, go out and check your mail. They're in a box about yay big. So, and let's see, checking in for Virginia. The Black Hills, that's South Dakota. Okay, so Joe asked, is it me or does the guys on the hat look like they've got their pants pulled up real high? So these are modeled after Jonathan and I. And I don't know about Jonathan, but I usually wear my belt just below here, So I used to wear it up around my neck, but it's affected my breathing. So now I wear my belt a little bit lower down. As I'm getting older, the belt starts going higher and higher. I did that once. My wife was teasing me about my belt being up too high, so I actually got it and I brought it up to here and walked around the house like that. And she was just like, "What did I marry into?" A bunch of more check-ins. Dr. Dial Tone. He's one of our guys from Radio Reference. Howdy. It's the first time I think I remember seeing you on here, so welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I see him on Radio Reference quite a bit, so that's pretty cool. And if you're not already aware, Jonathan and I are big fans of Radio Reference. We use that all the time. I'm very active on the forums, so you'll see me all over the place there. So Todd didn't get a scanner this year, but he got a Johnson UHF portable radio. So have a lot of fun with that. Those two-way radios can be a bear to program, but they are a lot of fun to play with. Dave lost his electricity in part of his house on Christmas, so that was fun. And you're not alone. I had a friend of mine who lives down the street that they lost electricity in part of their house. I don't know what it was for Christmas, but they did too, and they had to wait till Saturday and then pay the electrician double time to come out on a holiday weekend. Steve got an SDS 200 for Christmas. Fantastic. Congratulations. You'll love it. A check-in from Newcastle, Australia. So, Nate, welcome to the show. And, yeah, good riddance to 2020 for sure. Jim got an SDS 100. Steve likes my hat. And a couple people have mentioned the lighting keeps on changing. I don't know what's going on, but that lighting just keeps on changing.
What, Rich? Oh, yeah, in the background, because you've got some lights on the crazy shack back there.
All right, so there's a little backstory on that. My wife bought these LED rope lights for our Christmas decorations, and it didn't work out very well for the Christmas decorations, so she gave it to me. So I put it on the back of my cabinet, and I've been playing with it after we started getting some comments about the lighting. So I've been kind of playing with it to see if anybody noticed it, and some people have. So
the 2021 calendar. I can't replace it. I can't wait.
Yeah, can't wait. Oh, God. A day, and it's only 20, we're under 30 hours for the year. So thank God 2020 will be done with. So Steve is working on his SDS and using Sentinel to build his favorites list. If you've got an SDS or an X36, get used to using Sentinel. It's a lot of fun, and you can do a lot of great things with Sentinel. Also, try out the ARC 536. It does work very well. You're still going to need to use Sentinel to do the database and firmware updates, but ARC 536 does work really well on doing favorites lists. So Mr. Camp is waiting on his SDS. The email said it was in transit today, so yep, it'll be there soon. Steve asked about what software people like best, Sentinel, the Butel software, or ProScan.
Depends on the application, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got a Sentinel-based scanner, you have to use Sentinel to do the database and the firmware update. That's for sure. So you're going to have to get that going and make sure you get that going. Both the Butel packages, ARC 536 and ProScan, do support demo mode, so you can download it and try it. I think the Butel software works much better for programming. I do like ProScan's virtual control feature, but I like the Butel much better for programming for sure. And both of them support logging. If you buy the ARC 536 Pro or the ARC product, the Pro version for whatever scanner you've got, the Pro version does support logging and tracking of user IDs and such. So, so get the Pro version if you're going to do something like that. And let's see here. Frailingham does love that wideband antenna. We were talking about our mag mount antenna. It works great. Yeah, it's only $20, so it's a great antenna for the price. And we talked earlier about digital versus analog on the antennas. And Dave asked about what type of cable you use to reach the radio when you're using the Spectrum Force mag mounts. So the Spectrum Force mag mount antennas come with an integrated, I think that's RG174 style cable, very thin coax, and it's 12 feet long, I think. 10
Yes.
feet, 12 feet long, one of those. So most of the time, that's going to be fine. There's no way to disconnect the cable from the antenna, so it's integrated with it. So you're best off just connecting that directly to the radio, and it has enough coax where it'll reach most of the time where you want it to go.
Yeah, and the coax cable is pretty thin, so it's okay to snake it out a door if you have to.
Yep.
It works fine, on my pickup truck as well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, 12 feet of coax cable, just plan out your cable path accordingly. A lot of times you can hide the cable so it's not even seen. But yeah, I mean, that's a really good antenna and well worth the money, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there was a question about whether it would work if they stuck it to a rain gutter. Most rain gutters are
Aluminum.
aluminium. So unfortunately, that is not a ferrous metal, so it won't stick to it directly. But if you can get it to stay on there, it should work pretty well. Just remember, whenever you put an antenna outside, you have to worry about lightning considerations. So make sure that you protect it. And we were talking before, analog versus digital. The antenna doesn't care if it's analog or digital. It's all based on frequency. And ask Kenneth what the frequency is and get the antenna to match. Doesn't matter if it's analog or digital. The great remark there. The key is having a good ground plane. I talked before about when I stole my wife's cake pans to put my antennas on top of, and that was for a reason, because it provides a ground plane. So you put the antenna on that ground plane and on a piece of metal, and that acts as a ground plane. It really does make it work a lot better. And if you put it smack dab in the middle, your radiation pattern or reception pattern is going to be relatively circular. If you put the antenna on a corner, the reception is going to be better off towards the one side, and it's going to be a much different radiation pattern. So if you want good reception in all directions, put it smack dab in the middle. That's why in a vehicle, the best place for an antenna is smack dab in the middle of the roof. And it gives you a much more circular antenna reception pattern. And that does make things work a lot better that way. Chris asked about making your own J-pole antenna and how well would it work if it made from copper tubing and mounted to the roof of your house. J-pole antennas work pretty well, and there's tons of plans on the internet to make them. They're very easy to make. You can use copper tubing. You can use just about anything metal. There are lots of plans out there where it'll tell you the size and basically what it is. It's a off-center dipole antenna, and they actually do work very well. A lot of people like the way they operate, and you can make them out of almost anything metal. I've seen people make them out of conduit, copper tubing, coat hangers, all kinds of things. You'll get a copper tube actually works very well because it's easy to bend and it's easy to solder to when you're putting a connector on it. So let's see here. The question about analog versus digital also applies to TV antennas. Yes. So I love seeing these big TV antenna ads. Digital TV antenna. It's not a digital TV antenna. It's an antenna. The antenna doesn't care if it's analog or digital. All it cares about is the frequency involved.
And I think that causes the misnomer on the scanner community end of things, because they're thinking, do I really need to get a different antenna? No, your disc cone antenna that you've been using for years for analog will work for digital.
Absolutely.
It's no different.
So, alrighty. Question about what happens if you would use a TV antenna for a scanner. So you can use a TV antenna for a scanner. You can try it out. Basically, you're just putting a piece of metal up in the air. But for your best results, remember a TV antenna is typically horizontally polarized. And most two-way radio stuff is vertically polarized. So, and a TV antenna is almost always a directional antenna. So if you flip the antenna on its side like this, now you've got a pretty decent vertically polarized antenna, but it's very directional. So you'll need to point it. So, so if that's okay with you, then take a TV antenna, flip it on its side, and point it towards your target. It'll probably work pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've had some people that use TV antennas, and they use it because of its directional ability.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
absolutely.
what basically a beam antenna is. If you're trying to aim at an 800 megahertz site, it's a directional antenna.
Yeah, absolutely. And Grove used to make an antenna called, they used to make an antenna called the scanner beam. And basically it looked like a TV antenna that was flipped on its side. So Bob got his scanner guy's hat. So congratulations.
Awesome.
He really likes it.
Thank you so much.
It's actually a very comfortable hat. I like it. I've been wearing it for, hour and a half already. And it's nice comfortable. So Ron's doing a good thing. He's on his treadmill. Watching us. The Roku app.
Yeah, the Roku app is great. Download the YouTube app on Roku, and you can watch the scanner guys right on there.
Yeah, same thing if you got an Apple TV or a smart TV that has the YouTube app. So, and let's see. I actually ended up watching one of our old videos on my Apple TV or my Roku, I forget which, the other day. It just came up, and I was like, oh yeah, let me watch that one. So. Austin, okay, so you mount a disc cone or another type antenna outside. What do you use to mount on to affect its effectiveness? So basically, you're going to mount a disc cone on the same type of a mast and a mount that you would for a TV antenna. Make sure that whatever antenna you have outside is properly grounded. If the disc cone does not need a separate ground plane. It's built specifically to use by itself, and it's built specifically to go on a mast outside, or you can even put it in the attic. You don't need a ground plane. But make sure any antenna that you have outside is properly grounded. You want to get it protected from lightning. Did anybody use the ferret? Jonathan does. Tell us about ferret.
Yes, the ferret is a phenomenal antenna. It does have a pretty decent price tag. So it's a 8-foot antenna. It's in a fiberglass type of tube. Works very well across the board. VHF, UHF, 800, and beyond. Back in the day when the low band was a big deal, because of its overall height, it worked really well. And the other thing that I noticed with before all the narrow banding stuff, it was crazy the amount of reception you can get, especially on the railroads. At one point, I was living in Middleborough, Massachusetts, and I was getting stuff, communications on the Northeast Corridor in Connecticut. If the weather was just right, and this is well before the rebanding, the ferret certainly is a phenomenal antenna. It's a small operation for Austin Antenna. They're based out of New Hampshire. Another United States-made product, which is definitely key. So, you're going to pay a little bit more because it's not made over in China. It's made right here in the United States. I would vouch for it. It's definitely a really good antenna. Strongly recommend it. Works really well as a wideband antenna.
Yeah, basically, if you take a look at the inside structure of the Austin Ferret, it's basically several dipole antennas cut for the various scanner bands at a common feed point coming down, and it works remarkably well. And then it's all placed in a fiberglass tube, and so it lasts really long time, and it works really, really well, and it gives good omnidirectional performance. So the ferret is made by the same guy who makes the Austin Condor, which is probably the best handheld antenna, but it's it's a foot tall. So, and the ferret's no slouch either. That's what, 8 feet tall, something like that.
8 feet tall. Yeah, I mean it's definitely a large antenna, but it works really well.
Yeah, it's a big stick. Alrighty, so Jay is checking in late, snow delay. So he's out in eastern Nebraska. So it gets a little snowy this time of year. So happy New Year, Jay.
Happy New Year to you as well, and happy that you arrived home safely.
Yep, absolutely. So I've got some friends. I spent a lot of time in eastern Nebraska over the years. Great rail fanning out there. So if you and I ever get a chance to go out there, we'll take Highway 30 across Nebraska, and then we'll come back on Highway 36 and follow the BNSF. So yeah, it's you'll love it out there. It's great rail fanning, and plus you can see trains for 100 miles because it's so flat in the eastern side of the state. And plus there's highways on right alongside the railroads the whole way, so you don't miss anything. And of course it takes you 3 days to get across the state because you stop every 15 minutes for another train. So Dale's got 2 of those suction cup antennas with the Bnc connectors. We didn't show those on tonight's show, but they're really cool. What it is, it's a Bnc connector with some coax, and then it comes to a wire antenna with 2 little suction cups, and you put the suction cups on the windows and then connect it to the radio, and it actually works pretty darn well. It's a vertical dipole, and it works pretty darn good depending on the way you mount it. And he travels a lot, so he sticks them on the hotel windows, and it works great. We talked about the belt clips on the cases. So SGY scanner guy has a mag mount scanner antenna that he bought at Radio Shack many years ago that he's been using on his 2055 for 20 years, still going strong.
I think I know which antenna it is. It has the 2 isolators, or what they
loaded coils,
loaded coils, on there. That was a very popular Radio Shack antenna, if it's the one that we're thinking about.
Yeah, I've had one of those in the past as well. So yeah, they actually do work pretty well. And it just years ago there was a lot more choice when it came to scanner antennas. But then we have these days. But it is what it is. So our friendly doctor bought a leather case for his 396 many moons ago. It was really high quality. So yeah, they are good cases, and like I said, they're made right here in the good old US of A. Steve has got an SDS 200 and a couple other scanners. We already talked about this, but the multicouplers, of course. So and we had a little back and forth with Steve about the multicouplers. So the 4-port is great if you've got a couple scanners. If you think you're going to get more, start off with the 8-port, and it will not degrade the signal. You'll get the same signal strength there, if not even a little better. I actually get a little bit better signal strength coming out of the multicoupler than I do coming in, because there is a little bit of an amplifier in there. So
yeah, I mean, the same thing. I can vouch for that as well. That amplifier does help.
Donnie asks about the desk call. Will it work with radios with belt clips? We recommend, though, that you take the clip out. It works. He's got the belt clip on the 436 and the SDS 100. You can take the belt clip off and it'll work fine, and you can leave the stud on there. If you've got a 125 or a 325, it'll work a little better if you take the little belt clip off, but it will still hold it with the belt clip on there, but it'll hold better if you take this little belt clip off. It just comes off with 2 little Phillips screws. But on the 436 and the SDS, especially if you have the small battery on your SDS, it'll work fine with the stud on the back of the radio.
What I'd recommend with those little screws, one or two things. When you take the clip off, screw them back in so that you don't lose the screws. Or
All right.
make sure you, if you don't want to do that, take some tape and tape those screws to the clip. Because, it's going to be hard to find those screws, if you lose them.
Absolutely. And God knows I've lost many of those screws over the years. So I've got a few screws loose. So I've lost a few screws from up here as well. So let's see here. Yeah, get the 8-port if you think you're going to get more scanners down the road for sure. And let's see here. So all three of the multicouplers, the 4-port, the 16-port, and the 8-port, all have built-in preamps. So and they do require power. So you'll definitely and they come with the wall wart. So if you don't have an extra power adapter, it does come with it. So it took 45 minutes for Steve to notice the light changing on my cabinet back there. I've been messing around with it all night. Alicia showed up late, but she showed up, so it won't be a Scanner Guys show without Alicia.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, as always. Happy birthday next week. We'll make sure we'll mention it during the broadcast as well.
Absolutely. So Steve asks, he's using LMR 400 cable for his antenna. Does he still need to use LMR 400 from the multicoupler to the scanner? So no. Even the smaller little RG58 is fine. The jumpers that we sell, the 1 foot, the 3 foot, and the 6 foot, are RG58, and that's going to be just fine for those short lengths. RG58 is fine under like 25 feet. You get past 25 feet, LMR 400 is going to be noticeably better. But, at that short distance, LMR 400 is going to be too stiff to be effective to move it around, and you're going to be just fine with the RG58 stuff.
And that's I use RG6 when I had my original setup at the other house. So I fed into the hobby room from the ferret antenna down to the multicoupler, which was LMR 400. Then I fed the scanners locally with short jumpers. And then I used RG6 to feed a couple other rooms in the house. They weren't my primary listening locations. So, I wasn't, worried about, losing some signal, but I really didn't find that I lost very much signal at all, having a higher gauged coax cable. I mean, the multicouplers are great for feeding other rooms in your home as well.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that you can do too. I had a feeder to the living room, and then I had a feeder to the master bedroom as well. I'm really shocked I got away with drilling all those holes, but I did it. So
yeah. Well, what you do is you drill the holes when the wife's not home, so that she doesn't see you doing it. It's like it's like a post I put on Facebook the other day is, if the husband does the dishes and the wife doesn't see it, did it actually occur? And the same thing. It's when it comes to drilling holes in the house and stuff like that, if you've already done it, you can get forgiveness, but you'll never get permission. So Justin asks, how do I manage the audio from scanner racks, or if you've got multiple scanners in a rack like this, you got 4 of them. These racks have enough space in between the scanners. I mean, I can put my fingers in between them, so it does have room for the speaker audio to escape, if you will. So you can just adjust the volumes here. I actually do not use audio mixing or anything on my cabinet. I've investigated. I've been looking at one of those Behringer mixers, but I haven't needed it. I'm used to listening to multiple radios at the same time, and I'll adjust the volume on the one that I want to prioritize. I'll turn that volume up a little bit, and I'll turn the other ones down. So yeah, you got multiple scanners. Yeah, you can use a mixer so that you have one spot for the audio, and you can adjust either of those. But for the most part, if you just do the volume on the radio and set the one that you want to prioritize up a little bit higher than the others, you should be fine. Steve has got an SDS 200 and he's using it as his home. Is there any point of getting a GPS? So we get that question a lot of times on the phone, and we always tell people, no, if you're not driving around, don't bother with the GPS. Don't waste your money. It's not necessary, and you're just going to be wasting your $85 if you're using it at home. If you're going to use it in a car, the GPS is ideal, and watch our GPS show. But if you're using it at home, there's no point in getting the GPS.
Yeah, unless your home is on wheels, then maybe I suggest it. That was a lot of times when I, like answering the phone when we first came out with the GPS. I'm thinking about getting this GPS for the house. I asked them, "Does your home have wheels?"
Yeah.
No. Okay, you won't need it.
Right. Well, the other question we get too related to that is, if they get the GPS for their vehicle, do they still need to have an outside scanner antenna?
Yes.
And a lot of people are thinking, hey, I got the GPS plugged in, but I'm not hearing anything. Well, what type of antenna are you using? Well, I'm using the GPS. Okay, yeah, but what antenna do you have connected to the radio? Oh, I don't. I just got the GPS. I thought that's all you needed. No, you still need to have an antenna connected to the radio, even though you have the GPS. They do not, again, it's not the same thing. So you still have to have an antenna on the radio. So Alicia tried to use cable TV multicouplers before, and they just didn't work too well with scanners. You can use TV stuff with scanners. They're very similar frequency range, and I've had varied results with it. You're better off making the investment with a scanner multicoupler if you're really going to be kind of serious about it. The TV stuff these days is cheap, crap for these days. A lot of times these multicouplers are professional, durable, and reliable. So, and they are very, very well made. So let's see here. The BR330T, that is the same physical size as the 396. So if you're familiar with that, the neat thing about the BR330 was it picked up shortwave. So it would go all the way down to the AM broadcast band and all throughout the shortwave spectrum. It only picked up shortwave in AM mode. So you couldn't do sideband stuff that most of the hams use on HF. But if you want to listen to BBC or Voice of America or any of that kind of shortwave broadcast stuff, you could do it with that. I kind of wish I still had my 330. I gave it away or sold it or traded it years ago. So I miss that. And we used to sell a lot of them because we had a whole bunch of them. But they're all gone now too. So. All right, the 125 software. So you can get software called ARC 125 that works with the BC 125 AT, or you can program it right from the keyboard, which it's not too hard to do, and you've got less channels, so you can do it right from the keyboard. But if you want to do computer programming, get the ARC 125 software. The USB cable comes with the scanner, and so you don't need to buy a separate cable. You can use that. So the ARC 125 software from Butel, it's how much is that, Jonathan?
$29.95.
There you go. Thank you very much. It doesn't support virtual control, so there's no pro version of ARC 125, but it does make programming the channel memory a lot easier. And I do use that to program the channel memory on that from time to time. So let's see here. So CB Ben has got 2 mag mount scanner antennas, and so that means they're more durability in the snow and the ice. So the advantage of mag mount antenna is that you don't have to spend a lot of time physically installing it. You just kind of plop it on the roof and go. You do have to be careful taking those on and putting them off. When you put it on the vehicle, when you take it off, make sure you pull it straight up and don't pull it on this because you'll scratch your paint. got an old beater car, you probably don't care. But if you got a nice car, make sure that when you take the antenna off, you pull it straight up so that it doesn't scratch the car.
The other thing that you want to keep in mind as well is you want to make sure that the surface is dry and clean.
Yeah.
You don't want to make sure that you're putting on a surface where there's particles of dirt or anything like that. You want to make
Right.
sure that it's clean and dry. The reasoning behind being dry is a lot of times there's a protective, almost like a paper type of product in between the magnet and your vehicle. And if you put it down on a wet surface, it may compromise that material that's in between the magnet and your vehicle.
Yeah, that moisture gets stuck up underneath that and eventually can rot that out. So if you dry that section, or if you don't have to get fancy with it, just take a nice soft cloth or whatever you use to dry your car after you wash it, and just wipe the roof or wherever you're going to plop this thing down at so that it's clean and, like I said, dry so that stuff doesn't get stuck underneath it. And if you do end up having to drag the antenna to get it off, you're a lot less likely to scratch it. So, yeah, we have sold a boatload or train load of these scanner antennas. So, we do, we buy them in large amounts because we sell a lot of them. I mean, we sell dozens of these things every day. No, unfortunately, we don't have any current coupon codes, Tony. So we do occasionally have some specialists, but right now we just don't have any current coupon codes.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully in 2021, we have to clear that through management to see if we can do some exclusive Scanner Guys coupon codes. I really think that we should definitely see if we can work that in. I mean, we'll make it like a 24-hour, 72-hour coupon code. So you have to order it right away because we can't leave it wide open because this broadcast will live forever on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're trying to get a special deal just for our Scanner Guys people. So, Chuck reminds us that if you bought the download version of the Butel software, which we always recommend when you buy software, the Butel software, always buy the download version of the software. And there's several reasons for it. Number one, you get it quickly. You don't have to wait for the mailman or the UPS guy to deliver the CD or the thumb drive. You don't have to pay shipping on it. And most importantly, if you ever lose the product keys, you just call us on the phone and we can email you the product keys right away. So Chuck did that. He called earlier this week and he had lost his product keys. He bought the download version. I made a couple clicks on the computer, and he got an email with his product keys. So always buy the download version. And there's a fourth reason why the download version is great, too, is because you install it once. When you install it from a thumb drive or when you install it from the disc or the CD, depending on which one you buy, chances are you're going to have to download the newer version or the update anyway. So skip that, buy the download version, download the latest version of the software, install it once instead of twice. So, and did I mention that it's better to buy the download version versus the CD? Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. It's that important. So, did we sell out on the 125 already?
No, I just checked the website.
Okay.
Check it again.
All right. So, Uniden might be sold out of the 125, but we are not. And the other thing, too, is when you go to Uniden's website, they do sell scanners on there, but most of the time they don't keep them in stock at Uniden itself. They refer you to people like us because we're going to be able to provide much better support than Uniden does. Remember, Uniden is a big company. They sell scanners, they sell CB radios, they sell cordless phones, they sell security cameras, and a lot of other stuff. They're a big corporate conglomerate, and they don't have this. They don't have the support for the individual product lines like retailers like us can do. So you're better off buying the scanners directly from a scanner-only dealer like Scanner Master.
Yes, our sponsor of the show. And yes, as of the time of this broadcast right now, we have plenty of 125 ATs. So order
Yeah.
early, order often.
Yeah, just like you vote in Chicago, early and often.
Yeah.
Now, when you say that word, is it often or often?
Often.
Okay, good. I always say often, and I get yelled at by a lot of people. There's no T in often. Well, yeah, there is, but the T is silent. Okay, well maybe it is, but not when it's coming out of my mouth. And we are located in suburban Boston, or suburban Boston, or nor'easters, and that's why they have me working the phones most of the time. Is because most people can't understand the Boston people on the phone because they talk so like that.
Well, there's nobody that has an accent on the phone. I mean, usually it's just you and me on the phone. Rare occasion that other Rich picks up the phone.
Yeah, well, that's our ongoing joke, and that they have, that they fly me into the office once a year, and they not only have to have a driver pick me up at the airport to bring me to the office because I get totally lost there, but they also have to hire an interpreter so I can understand those Boston people talk. All right, it's just a local joke, guys. All right, so Toronto apparently is getting flooded with DMR and NXDN stuff. Yeah, but it's all business and local stuff. Most of the public safety stuff in Toronto is P25 these days. So, yeah, there's a lot of DMR and NXDN stuff going on for businesses. I don't have any glow-in-the-dark knobs on any of my radios. The 536 does support lighting behind the knob. That's where the color light is. So, but no, we don't.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, you can buy glow-in-the-dark paint, I suppose, so you can find your knob at night. Yeah.
That just was wrong. I know it's after 10 o'clock in the east, but,
Yeah.
Moving on.
Moving on.
They do have raincoats that are glow-in-the-dark.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So Les is up in Ontario in the GTA, and apparently the Mississauga Hydro, which is what they call their utilities out there, the electric utilities, call it Hydro. Apparently they're using Pro Voice, and apparently that's the only Pro Voice in that area. So there's not a lot of Pro Voice left out there. Oklahoma City is now moving off of Pro Voice and onto P25. San Antonio is working their way out of their Pro Voice system and going to P25. I think Albuquerque is probably doing the same thing. So if they're using Pro Voice now, they probably won't be for long.
Yeah, a lot of the utility companies are going to be using Pro Voice or DMR or NextEdge. They're usually a lot of the culprits of some of these other digital systems. There's a few utility companies that are using P25, but I noticed they're using like these other digital systems. They don't need the Cadillac of digital.
Yeah, the P25, the utility system that is in my area, both of them, there's two big electric utilities. They both use P25. I know in Chicago area, ComEd uses P25, but a lot of the utility agents, especially the smaller ones, will use DMR and NXDN because it is cheaper to get than the P25 stuff is. So Ray lives in suburban Chicago, and he's got a casino not far from him, which I've actually been to once. And they do use NXDN at that casino down there. So
casinos are another.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would have to get an NXDN capable scanner to listen to that, Ray. I know he's got a BC75, so it won't work on NXDN, but you can get NXDN scanners. They're more expensive, of course, but you can get them. So Les tells us that a lot of fire departments in Ontario are using DMR. So that's probably a money thing because two-way radios with DMR are a lot cheaper than P25. So Mr. Camp lives in a rural community, and they use analog, so he uses a 365 CRS. He says it works great, and we don't mention it. The reason we don't mention it is because it is just that it's an analog scanner, and the CRS means it can't receive stuff because it doesn't do digital. Actually, the CRS actually stands for Clock Radio Scanner, but we call it the Can't Receive Stuff Scanner because it doesn't do any type of digital or trunking. If they are using analog in your area, the CRS is actually a pretty decent little scanner. I gave one to my dad, one of the predecessors of that to my dad, and he used it in his area because his local fire department and the local railroad and the local airport worked on it, and that's all he cared about. And but we don't mention it because it's a relatively low-end scanner, and it doesn't work for many people because it doesn't do any type of digital or trunking. Let's see here. Somebody on eBay is selling glow-in-the-dark knobs for the SDS. Okay. Hey, I'm sure there's a market for that kind of stuff. So, if you're into glow-in-the-dark knobs, there you go. So our Framingham, we were talking earlier about the SD card product that we sell. And it's great for people who have poor eyesight and other issues that make it impossible for the program. So, we do sell that to a lot of people who don't have a computer. They're elderly or they can't see very well, so they, so using a computer might be difficult for them, or they just don't want to bother with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things is they just don't want to bother with the labor of doing it. And we have some customers out there that just rather leave it to the experts. And there's the information about the replacement SD cards. They start at $59.95.
And what you're going to be getting, an 8 gigabyte, high quality, heavy duty SD card. And it's so it's going to give you more capacity for recording. But we do recommend, if you're not using the recording function, we do recommend that you turn that off. And there's a setting on your radio, and it depends on the type of radio. So the SDSs and the X36s have a setting where you can turn off the replay by setting the setting it to 0 seconds. Mm-hmm. And the reason we suggest people turn that off if you're not using that feature is because it reduces the amount of times that it reads and writes to the card. And if your radio happens to get shut off, the power gets lost to the radio while it's in the middle of one of these read-write cycles, you can corrupt the card. If you turn off the replay, you're much less likely to get a corrupted card. So if you're not using that, turn that off. But if you are using it, this 8 gig card will give you more recording space. Let's see here. Blackhawk says we need an encrypted capable scanner. So yeah, unfortunately, that will never happen. I wish we did, but it's not going to happen. So excuse me for 1 second.
Yeah, so the encrypted scanner is not going to happen. That's something that the FCC would never approve of. And Gordon is chiming in. He monitors 5 departments, DMR on 1 frequency. He's using the BC 436 HP. Same color, same frequency, different talk groups. The display keeps the data. Keeps using the data from different departments and parts of others. Hints?
Yeah,
how to display it.
So DMR, single channel DMR is capable of trunking features without having multiple frequencies. So you can have talk groups on a simplex DMR channel, and as you can on NXT and even P25. So if they've got 5 departments on 1 DMR channel, you can program it as a single channel
trunk system
and put the talk groups in there. So that when talk group number 17 shows up, it's Mayberry, and when talk group number 38 shows up, it's Mount Pilot. And then that way you can segregate it and you can lock out Mayberry and listen to just Mount Pilot if that's what you want to do.
The other cool thing with single site trunking is, let's say you have a digital conventional frequency. Take, for instance, in Massachusetts, North Attleboro, Mansfield, just a few off the top of my head. If you program in that frequency as a single site trunk system, it's of course only going to have one talk group because it's just their main communication.
Right.
But you'll actually be able to see the radio IDs because you have it set up that way. It'll show the radio IDs, which is pretty neat.
Yeah. And sometimes they actually do use separate talk group numbers. One of the public works departments where I used to live used a single channel DMR, but they used one talk group for the water department and one talk group for the electric utility on the same frequency, so that you could talk independently of each other and not interfere with each other. So the electric guys don't have to listen to the water guys. Apparently, they didn't get along. So you can't put electricity and water together. That doesn't work well.
No.
You can't put electricians and plumbers together because they don't play nice.
Yeah, there's sometimes some turf and beef, turf wars of beef.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just going to leave that alone.
Yeah. Steve asks how he can get a multicoupler in Canada. You order it from Scanner Master. We do ship to Canada. It does cost a little bit of money to ship to Canada, unfortunately. Shipping costs to Canada from the U.S. is higher. And these multicouplers are made here in the USA. As far as I know, there are no companies selling those in Canada. So, you're best off buying them from us, and then we can ship it to Canada. So, Tony has got a Pro 97 scanner, and the easiest, most affordable way to program it. So, the Pro 97 is an analog-only scanner. You can get software for it. We do sell software. It's our I'm not sure which ARC version. It's ARC 300 or ARC 97. I forget which. But we do have the software for it. If you have the cable, if you don't have the cable, you can get the cable from Whistler Group. It's the same cable as used on the Whistler scanners. But you can get software for it and program it with Windows. But you can program it manually, but it does take a longer time to program manually. It can get a little tedious after the first couple hundred channels for sure. But yeah, there is an ARC product.
ARC 96.
It is ARC for the Pro 97 he's got.
Oh, Pro 97. That is
ARC 300.
No, the ARC 300 only does the 300, 400.
No, it does the 97 as well.
All right, let me take a look. Oops, that downloads the software. I don't want to do that.
John's will be out for the next 2 minutes while he's downloading software, but
I know. It stopped. I won't do anything on a Mac. That's the other thing with software. Will not work on a Mac.
Right.
The ARC software. You'd have to use Parallels or. I'm just putting in the trash right now.
So yeah, it is ARC 300 that works for not only the Pro 97 but the Pro 2055, the 163, the 164, the PSR 300, PSR 400, and there's a couple other Canadian and even an MFJ private label scanner that it works on. So.
When in doubt, give us a call. The page I was looking at, only just has the 300, 400, the Pro 163 and 164.
Yeah, so it doesn't in that. So ARC does try to combine software packages for different radios if they're compatible. They have the same command set. So sometimes it's not always real evident which software package it is, but if in doubt, give us a call. We'll figure it out and make sure you get the right software. All right. Can the cake be 3D printed? Not yet. but I think they're going to have edible 3D printers. I wouldn't be surprised to see them in my lifetime. Who'd have thunk that we could do 3D printing like we are now anyways? So
Yeah. I just lost my place.
Yeah, I do that too. Sometimes I lose place. So I usually got to find the one that's highlighted and scroll back. So the software we're using allows us to scroll back and forth, but sometimes it also allows us to get lost. So,
okay, yeah, there we go. 3D printing, there it is.
Yeah. So let's be careful. It's going to get freezing rain in the Greater Toronto area. So, the next question is, if it actually happens, will one or both of us be attending Hamvention in 2021? We hope so. I don't think that Hamvention or Dayton is going to be happening in 2021. I don't see this situation getting cleared up enough by then to have that actually happen. So, but if it does happen, it's quite, and we do have a booth. One or both of us will probably be there, hopefully. But I'm not going to bet money on Hamvention actually happening this year.
Here's the latest message from the website. I'll show that on the screen. I just went to their website so we can get official word from there. Just hold on one second. We'll make it so it comes up, and we'll remove that. So we're looking forward to seeing all of our friends at the 2021 Hamvention. Of course, 2020 has turned out to be the year of COVID-19, the pandemic, that has caused us to deal with new stresses and visitors' concerns regarding Hamvention. As we move forward into 2021, Hamvention, we will keep our eyes on governmental policies and ensure good protection to our guests and some training in public health. I'm especially interested in making sure all of our guests will be able to enjoy and gather for Hamvention without any risk to themselves. So that is from the Hamvention General Chair, Rick there, which is, I'm guessing that's him photographed over on the right. Yep. I would love to do Hamvention again. Definitely I will make it so I can do it. I'm hoping that we can. If not, we will push Rich Barnett for 2022 to have both of us there, since it's 2022. Should have both scanner guys there. Two
scanner guys.
Two scanner guys. So
see, that's why there's two of us on the shirt and the hat.
So from this message, sounds very promising. I mean, if things start to improve with with trying to getting COVID under control, so they haven't ruled it out yet. Yeah.
So we're hoping. So no promises, but we are hoping. So what's the difference between ARC 536 and Sentinel? Okay, so ARC Sentinel is used to update the full database and the zip code, and you can do basic programming.
And the firmware. Key thing, you can only do the firmware updates with the Sentinel software. So the softwares work hand in hand. So, for instance, what you would use ARC 536 for is for the virtual screen, and you would also use it if you like programming through the Butel software. It's going to be very much like what you're used to, but the thing is, if you're using ARC 536 for programming, you need to have a radio reference subscription if you're creating a favorites list using the software. Now, you can create a favorites list without having a membership to Radio Reference if you use the Butel software exclusively. So the major difference in between the softwares is, of course, the Sentinel software is free, and you have to use that particular software to do updating the database, updating the firmware, and then creating your favorites list. So the key thing here is, if you don't like creating your favorites list using Sentinel software, Then you would go over to the ARC 536.
Yeah.
And the 536 is going to be very much like if you're used to ARC XT. It's going to look very much and have that feel and look to it. So that's the major thing. But still, like we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, you still need Sentinel software to update that firmware, update that internal database. But as for favorites lists, you either do it in the Sentinel software, or if you like the layout of the ARC software, you can do it there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest point right there. Is if you're used to the look and feel of Butel, you'll like that.
Yes. But keep in mind, you need that radio reference subscription.
Yeah, and since you're going to have a Windows computer either way, it's not a big deal about having both software. You can have both software on the same computer, and so that'll work out fine. So, all right, Les asks, what's a good backup power device for the SDS200 and other base Uniden scanners? So you got a couple choices here. If you want to have the radios work if the power goes out, you can get 12-volt batteries and connect them to your power connectors. You can get those little 12-volt batteries and have a cigarette lighter plug on them, and you can use a cigarette lighter plug. You can use a regular computer-style uninterruptible power supply, UPS, and plug it into that UPS. Or you can use some sort of a battery backup. Because remember, these scanners are designed to work on 12 volts just as well as 120. So I used to use these sealed lead acid batteries. And they're about yay big. And I used to buy them. I had one that was really neat. It was in a little nylon package or case, and it had a cigarette lighter socket attached to that nylon case. So you can plug your cigarette lighter plug cable into that, and then plug that into your radio, and you can run an SDS or another scanner for days on one of these things, and it works great. They sell those. I've seen those at auto parts stores and other places. If you get one of those big battery powered car starters, jump starters, a lot of those will also have a cigarette lighter plug that you can plug accessories into, and you can run it for days off of that. But like I said, if you got a computer UPS, you can use that as well. Steve says, I'm going to need to get some suspenders pretty soon. Yeah, I suffer from a malady that's very well known to many people of my age, where you got no tushy but big belly. So suspenders are probably in my future.
I have the belly and the tush, so
yeah,
blessed with both.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're gonna say something?
No, I'm just gonna leave that alone. So happy holidays, Gene from Massachusetts. Happy holidays to you. And Chris is mentioning that he's listening to his scanner tonight. He's listening to that statewide system in Michigan, right, Rich?
Yep. Yeah, that's the MPSCSCSMPE system. It doesn't have a really good acronym that rolls off the tongue like Safety or Starcom or Stars or something like that.
Viper.
Or Viper. Yeah, oh, that's the best name for a radio system there is.
Viper. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's was it MPSCS or something like that? It just doesn't roll off the tongue like the other ones do. So. I don't think Uniden is. Have they unveiled stuff at the? I would love to go to that. By the way. Oh yeah, I actually went to CES one year. I happened to have a vacation in Vegas about the same time, so we were able to change our reservation to stay an extra night, and I got a pass to go to CES. And it's a fantastic show. If you ever get a chance to get in there, it's great. And I don't know if Uniden attends these things. If they do, it's probably more for some of their more mainstream consumer products. But I typically they've unveiled their scanners through us.
Yeah.
We did the big intro on the SDS 100 or Universal Radio when they accidentally spilled the beans. But
yeah, I mean, but we were in the works with Paul. And by the way, today is the 1 year of Paul his passing away. But yeah, the Universal kind of beat us to the punch, and then we were already working with Paul with unveiling the scanner and so on. Yeah. And he basically, I remember sending him an email saying, "I've already started producing videos with the new SDS 100. I guess now that the cat is out of the bag, can I now post them?" And then he said, "Yeah, go ahead." At this point, go ahead.
It was an accident, and we love our buddies from Universal. They're good people. They made a mistake, and they published the website ahead of time. So but we got a good chuckle out of it, and they got the business on that. But you know what? Stuff happens. So
so there's Jay giving hopefully you some love, or Rich Barnett. I'm not too sure.
No, it's me.
No, it's definitely you. He writes he enjoys ordering from Scanner Master and talking to Rich on the phone. It's nice to be able to see a face to the name. Always a good experience buying from Scanner Master. That's for sure. I mean, you're going to either more than likely get Rich or myself on the phone. I'm occasionally working the phones, and sometimes I pick it up when I'm here at the home office. Just have some entertainment and talk to you guys. We really certainly enjoy you guys being a part of our family. Let's see here. Does the SDS search and store like the 246T?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, It does have the search functionality. It's even better if you have it hooked up to ARC 536 Pro, because it does log all that stuff, and then you can go back and look at the logs. And not only does it log the channel names that you have programmed in there, but if you're on a search, it'll log the PL tones, the DPL codes, or the trunking codes that it finds during the search. So that's a great tool to use. If you have it able to hook it up to a computer.
That's for sure. And the bottle count right now, Rich?
This is number 4. So I've got 3 empties over here, and I got number out. 4. You're out, and then I got 2 more waiting just in case. So,
let's see here. Asking me about would I like to listen to Middleborough, Google Wicked Local, the audio via Rangecast. Rangecast, we are partnered up with Rangecast, and I do have an ability to eavesdrop into Middleborough and several of the communities in Massachusetts. And the other cool thing is there is some Rangecast locations that are feeding, which is not public, feeding some of the local railroad traffic, and I do love eavesdropping on that as well. So definitely the Wicked Local websites that host the Rangecast audio feeds are awesome to be able to, for example, let's say you're completely out of range of your local town. Mm-hmm. It's great to be able to listen to that. And, Wicked Local is a partnership with Rangecast in Massachusetts, so that's definitely a really good thing. Alicia mentions we all have a few screws loose.
Some of us more than others.
Let's see here. Todd's chiming in. Rich, I'm looking for a rubber duck antenna for for his radio. It's a UHF.
But I'm not sure what type of antenna connector the Johnson has.
Yeah, you're going to have to look at, a lot of times, a lot of two-way radios have SMAs, but it's the opposite of what the scanner is. Yeah. I mean, you look at the unication radio, it is the opposite. Basically, the female part is on the antenna, and then the male insert is on there. So I would say, Rich, you would probably recommend taking the antenna off, trying to
Yeah.
determine which antenna connection, and then look for the appropriate antenna.
Yeah, so many of the Motorola radios and the unification that is now in pieces on the floor in Jonathan's office
No, it's fine.
use that reverse SMA connector like that. I'm not sure about that EF Johnson. If they use a reverse SMA, then a Motorola antenna would work on there as well. If it uses a BNC, then you can use, we do have some antennas there. I'd be very surprised if they use a BNC connector. Most of those use some sort of a reverse SMA on the professional radios. So,
Todd, if you want, what you can do is support@scannermaster.com. If you could take a photo of that and just send the connector, I mean, we may be able to determine what the connector is. And at least that's going to be the biggest thing, is finding out what the connector is. Once you figure out the connector on the radio, then you can search for the antenna based on the connector that's needed. I mean, I have, what was it? Yeah, I have a two-way radio that I had. It was just a SMA connection reverse, so I was able to find, the appropriate antenna.
Yeah, and you can also, if you need it, you can get adapters for that reverse SMA to a BNC. I actually have one of those laying around someplace. It works on I bought it for my Motorola radios that I had at the time. It also worked on my unification, and it worked on I had a Bofang for a while. Not a Bofang, a Woshin radio for a while. One of those
They
cheap,
all have those Bofang, Woshins, they all have those.
Yeah. So they are out there. You can get adapters and you can get antennas that work on those.
So Les has got a question here. Looks like he's got some 600 megahertz stuff and some 700 megahertz stuff for Canadian industries.
Yeah, actually, what's going on in Canada is they are pretty much mirroring what's going on in the U.S. as far as frequency allocations. So they actually use the same frequency allocations as they do in the U.S. For the most part, for the actual frequencies that they use, not necessarily for their assignments, but for the actual frequencies that they use. So they are starting to open up the 700 meg band in Canada, from what I understand. So if the scanner works in the U.S., it will work on the frequencies used in Canada, because they do use the same set. So
David is asking, he's very interested after watching this about the ferret antenna. Now, the selling point to convince your wife, find the most hideous antenna possible online that's got a whole bunch of ungodly elements.
Oh, yeah.
The good
Get
thing,
a picture of the SD2. It looks like a pitchfork.
The good thing about it is the ferret is in that fiberglass tube. It looks clean.
Yeah.
So that's going to be probably the word of advice I would give you if you're looking to convince the wife or the spouse or the significant other, if you're the lady in the house that likes scanners, is to fiberglass. It's all concealed. It's a clean install. Basically, you can do a tripod mount if it's on the roof, or a wall mount if it's going to be side mounted, and it's all in the fiberglass sealed. Doesn't have a bunch of whole bunch of elements all over the place. That's probably going to be your convincing argument. Show her, maybe that's what you do. Show her the SD2 and say, this is what I'm looking at.
Right.
Or which one would you prefer?
Yeah, and tell her that if you take all the wrapping paper off of a wrapping paper tube, it looks like an 8-foot long wrapping paper tube that's in white in color. So it's not as noticeable as this big conglomeration antenna with radials sticking out in every direction.
Yeah, and it looks a lot cleaner, especially in that. I mean, that's the whole thing about, the spouse. A lot of times it's, I don't want all, the big elements and all this and all the, and that's going to be the helpful thing. I answered this as well from Steve Wells about the Mac software. Only, I don't know why the scanner industry hasn't moved towards Mac. It just hasn't. That's one of it.
Yeah, even though we are both Mac people, and there's a lot of Mac people out there, the raw numbers and computers is Windows has got about a 7-to-1 advantage over Mac on raw numbers, because every office in the world has got Windows computers out the yin yang because they're cheaper. Macs are more expensive, but there's a smaller installed base on a Mac. So, yeah, you can run this software on a Mac, but you need to have something like Parallels, Fusion, or Boot Camp. Now that Mac is starting to switch over to the ARM processors, the M1 processors, that's going to throw a little bit of a monkey wrench into this, because the software that most scanner software will not work on an ARM processor. So even though Parallels is coming up with a new version that'll work on the ARM, it won't work with the current Windows software that a lot of people are using. So until then, if you are looking to do it on a Mac, make sure you have an Intel-based Mac, and then you can run it with Parallels or Boot Camp. Or it might be cheaper just to go out and buy a $100 PC and use that to program your computer or to program your radios.
John asks, with the Home Patrol 2, can it get DMR or NextEdge? Unfortunately, no. Hopefully, Rich and I keep teasing and joking about a Home Patrol 3. If there's a Home Patrol 3, it'll probably support DMR, NextEdge, and Pro Voice probably.
Yeah, we would hope. Yeah,
we hope. I mean, friggin' United's probably gonna kill us. They'll probably say those damn two guys that keep talking about Home Patrol 3. We're gonna have to make one.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to get you to do, guys. Do it.
Yeah, make a Home Patrol 3. But yeah, I would say if there's a Home Patrol 3, it more than likely will support. So this is what it's going to be. Home Patrol 3, if we were to make it, one, it would support DMR, NextEdge, and Pro Voice. It would also have the software-defined radio technology, so it'll have the sensitivity for simulcast. And then it'll be in that form factor. And the other thing, it'll get rid of the attenuator off the main screen.
Oh, God, I hate that thing. Oh.
The blasted people put that on, and they say, I can't hear nothing. And
I think attenuator must be good, so let's turn it on.
Turn it on, it wipes it all out. That's one of the. And there's a few other things with the Home Patrol I would change software wise.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be one of them. That's for sure. Yeah. And
now, just to be truthful here, we have not heard any plans of Uniden coming out with the Home Patrol 3. That is, at this point, that's just a thing in our imagination, that figment in our imagination, and we would love to see. But
yeah, that's going to be radio reference forums tomorrow. Home Patrol 3.
Scanner guys say the Home Patrol 3 is coming. No.
And
then it'll be and they said it's going to be introduced on January 1st. Oh yeah.
No. But yeah, that's. Oh my word! We're gonna run out of the ferret antenna. I'm just gonna skip down to this one here. Where can you get it? You can get it from scannermaster.com, which is here's the website right here. I'm gonna put this into larger view so you can see, and then I'm gonna put this even bigger so we can see.
Now this picture is kind of deceiving, because basically what this is a diagram of all the elements inside the antenna. The antenna itself is basically just a single vertical fiberglass tube. It's not all these things sticking out the side. It is a single fiberglass tube. This is just showing you what's inside the tube.
And there's the actual inside the tube there.
Right.
And somewhere I have a photo of it on the side of my house. Let me just look for that. What we'll do is we'll address...
we'll come back to that while you're looking for that picture.
Let's go to Todd here with his question about Unitrunker.
So if you have an older scanner, how do you modify them to run Unitrunker and other software? So basically, if you have a scanner that doesn't support Unitrunker by its PC jack or your computer jack, you can run it with what's called a discriminator tap. And basically, you would add a jack on the radio that is connected to a specific point inside the radio where it can draw the unfiltered audio out of the radio and then supply it to the computer to be decoded by the software. You can do that with Unitronker and some of these other programs, but it might be easier to just invest in a used scanner or a new scanner that supports the software without having to modify the radios. Something like Pro 96Com will work on a lot of older scanners and allow you to do a lot of the stuff without having to modify the radio. You basically just plug the cable into the front of the radio and hook it to the computer and run the software. So, yeah, you can do it. And if you just look up a discriminator mod for your particular type of radio and how to connect that into your scanner, with that, you're going to need another device called a data slicer. Sometimes and sometimes not. So you might be better off just buying a scanner that supports Unitronker or the other software directly, even if you have to go out and buy a used one.
Okay, so I shared a link to a blog entry I did way back about the ferret. Let me just I got to scroll back up to remove this. Okay, so unfortunately, I had to move the blog from one website to another, so it basically pulled in the smaller image of it. Yeah. Is it?
I can see it. Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, so this is Dave is the one that's trying to convince the wife. So you can see this is the antenna on the side of my home. See how clean it looks? I mean, it's in a fiberglass tube. Works really well. Greg, our programmer, gave me crap for this. Now everybody knows where you live. Because I put, like the center point in Attleboro. Well, this is where I used to live. And then I basically put in the circle of basically the range I would get on this. And it was slightly a little bit further. Like I could get Plymouth Police and Middleborough, Lakeville. I could get Fall River, Swansea, Somerset. I could get a good part of Rhode Island when they were analog, conventional. When they switched over to digital, it was a little bit more interesting because of, the sites. I had to do things differently, but I could receive north of Attleboro, Franklin, Milford, Holliston, into Boston, So, I mean, it was quite a ways. It's all depending on what you're monitoring. I mean, my thing was railroads, so it worked phenomenally well on the railroads just because of how it's constructed. It worked pretty well on like some of the trunking systems, but keep in mind this is a really good antenna. So when it comes to simulcast, if you're not running an SDS, this may actually be too good of it in that case, where the other radios are not able to discriminate in between towers, and you may have some issues with some simulcast sites if you're using this. So you may want to use a separate antenna setup for those 800 megahertz or 700 megahertz simulcast sites, maybe something that's inside the home, because this antenna works phenomenally well. But if you're running an SDS, by all means, hook it up to this baby. You're going to have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a great antenna. I wish I was allowed outside antennas. If we buy a new house out here, we're definitely going to get one where I can put outside antennas. And I've already got wifely permission to put up a tower and multiple antennas on the tower if we get a house that's not stuck in an HOA.
And here it is right on our website, 8 feet tall. It has an end connector female. It weighs 4 pounds. The ribbing tube is fiberglass. As Rich mentioned, after the tube for the wrapping paper is almost the best example, but it's 8 feet long. Keep in mind
the same size around too. So
keep in mind that this product is oversized. So shipping is not going to be cheap because it's taking up 8 feet of real estate in the shipping truck. So keep that in mind. A lot of packages now are done by weight and size. So, whoops, I don't want to knock my microphone down. Weight and size. So the bigger the object is, the more real estate in the truck it takes up.
And the more money they're going to charge you for. And so,
That's for sure.
Yeah, but you're going to be spending a lot of money on the antenna anyways. It's not a stretch to pay a little bit more for the shipping on it. So
there is a link to the blog entry if you want to take a closer look. That was something that was written way back when we basically launched the blog.
Cool. Kevin asks or suggests that we use the SanDisk Max endurance cards for our programming. We use the SanDisk Ultra right now, which have proven to be very good for us. We will look into the Max endurance cards to see if they're going to be feasible for us to use. But the Ultra has been they've been working very, very well for us. And we've been very happy with those and the endurance on those cards. And again, if you don't use the replay option, turn it off so that you can reduce the amount of read-write cycles, regardless of what card you're using.
Yeah, and I use for photography, I use the, I use SanDisk as well, but I use the Extreme, which has worked out pretty well. And word of advice, don't go to CVS or Walgreens or anything to buy SD cards. You're going to pay top dollar. If you're trying to do an SD card for photography, or you're looking to get a mini SD card as a backup, let's say you're fully aware of how to make the SD cards on your own.
Right.
Certainly look at like B&H Photography is an option. Usually they're very fair priced with their SD cards.
And with an SD card on a unit scanner, don't get anything over 32 gigs because the scanner can only recognize 32 gigs. And if you get anything larger than that, it's either not going to recognize it or it's going to be wasted space. If you're not doing replay, even a 1 gig card is going to be sufficient if you're not using replay. The files and favorites list take up less than half a gig. Anything beyond that is usable for recording, and if you're not doing recording, then you really don't need a much larger card than that. And buy a spare. On my portable radios, I always have a spare SD card taped on the inside of my battery, and that's actually an Ultra card, I think, there. And on my mobile radio out in the car, I've got a spare SD card out there. SD cards are relatively inexpensive. Get a couple of them, and when you update one, update the other one. If you've got a card reader, it's a lot faster to do it in a card reader. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 SD card based scanners that I update from time to time, and it's a lot faster with an SD card reader than it is with to try and do it in the radio itself.
I have about 5 radios that are SD card in front of me. If I'm not including portable radios.
Yeah. And that's just in the house, and then he's got a half a dozen portables with SD cards too. So
I've got this one. I've got the SDS, which is currently in the bedroom right now. I know where it is. I remember that show. When I frantically looked for the radio.
Oh, the look of panic on your face.
Yeah. Because that's the only. Because I'm like, that's the STS 100 and 200. Those are the very expensive babies. That's for sure. And plus the beta test units, that we got. Let's see here. Where are you? Ron?
Yeah. Yep. So what's the estimate of sales portables versus desktop? I think most people, it's a pretty even match, but I think we sell more portables than desktop because their portables are more flexible. You can use them anywhere.
Yeah, for doing this, working in sales for Scanner Master, I'm not on the phone as much as I used to be. but I've spent over a decade working the phones. I would say definitely portables are usually the more popular, and usually they're the first radio that someone gets is a portable.
Yeah. Yeah.
The second radio is likely either another portable or a base unit. I would say, yeah, definitely portables are the top selling.
Yeah.
The call volume used to be a lot higher when I first started in 2008 with Scanner Master, and I would get in, sit down at the desk, and the phone would ring from the time they turned on to the time that they shut off, and I was on the phone nonstop. And it was just crazy. Now it just comes in waves. But keep those phones busy. That keeps our job secure, and we're actually in overtime right now in the show right now. So I'm not like myself.
We're not
and
getting
Rich,
paid for this right now.
we're not getting paid for the hour number 3. It's allocated in our budget 2 hours, and we're at 2:55, 2 hours and 55 minutes, and we'll keep answering these questions going through. But yeah, definitely portables. I would say portables.
And Ron comments again. 2/3 of the scanner owners in his area seem to be women. So, women do tend to make up a large segment of the hobby, which is kind of unusual for a technology hobby. But women do tend to like scanners a lot. They want, but again, a lot of people want to know what's going on in their neighborhood, and it's very.
And a lot of it is curiosity. The curiosity of. There is a Facebook group for the town that I live in, which I don't belong to. My wife does, and there's always several people asking, "Oh, the fire department went down the street. What are they? Like, my wife is like, she's about ready to post in there. Why don't you buy a scanner and you'll know everything that goes on?"
Yeah. Well, my wife has absolutely nothing to do with the scanner. She doesn't want anything to do with it. She has absolutely zero interest in scanners.
Well, she can't do anything with it anyway.
Well, she can't do anything with it anyway. But even if she wasn't deaf, she wouldn't have anything to do with the scanners anyway. But as soon as she sees a fire truck driving down the street or there's a police car running down with the lights, she wants to know what's going on. So.
Yeah, that's for sure. Chris is asking about the do you know anything about that county going?
Ingham County is one of the last holdouts on EDAX in Michigan, and so apparently they're switching over. I heard that they're switching over sometime this year, but April's as good a thing as any. So. But remember, those deadlines are not etched in stone. Having installed big radio systems and stuff like that, there's always delays. I'm sure the initial install date was anticipated to be last year sometime, but these things are always delayed. So, Tim doesn't think Ham Vincent's going to happen this coming year.
He also comments, have you been to this in the Southwest, HamCom?
I have not. I've been to the one down in Florida many years ago. Of course, a lot of them in the Phoenix and the Chicago areas, a couple other ones, but I've never been to HamCom.
And here's looks like a follow-up to Chris's question. Haven't heard anything else on a date as far as it will be a 7-tower simulcast system. So Chris purchased some SDSs, didn't he?
Yeah, sure did.
Oh, so that's going to be handy for him if they're going to be a 7-tower simulcast system.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ron is the database administrator for Michigan, so he's going to be the one that's going to update it in the radio reference database when it does come up. So,
if you're in that area,
Ron knows what he's doing. So,
if you're in that area, an SDS is going to be your friend, or a unication unit is going to be your friend because the simulcast. Yeah. Is going to be definitely there.
Yeah. So Steve mentions that it costs about $60 to ship by U.S. Postal Service to Canada. That's about the going rate for smaller packages. Larger packages will obviously cost a little more. Unfortunately, those are the costs that we incur. So we don't make any money on the shipping. We charge you what we pay. So,
And and the other little the rates fluctuate. Couple of things. When I was in the office, they fluctuated for fuel costs.
Yep.
The other thing too is the amount of volume that we send out to a certain area. So if our orders are low going to Canada, our rate is going to be higher.
Yeah.
So I mean that's the other thing. It's volume and a whole bunch of other things. And some of the companies never took off the fuel surcharge, and they still have it on there, even though that in some parts of the country we're at $1.99 for gas. They still have the $3 or $4 surcharge on there.
Yeah. It's hard to reduce the prices. It's real easy to raise them, but it's real hard to reduce them. Mm-hmm. So if you ever notice gas prices, they go up by quarters and they come down by nickels.
Yeah.
So, how many hams are also scanner files? I haven't heard scanner file before, but that's a great word for scanner people. So CB Ben has been both a scanner guy and a CB guy for a long time, 30 years. I've never been a scanner guy.
Have you seen? You've seen Magnum PI, right?
Was that the guy?
Tom Selleck in Hawaii.
Yeah, I've never seen the show, but I know of it.
So that is the best thing I've seen tonight.
Yeah,
we see the face of Scanner Master.
He's the guy that nobody ever sees.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're comparing Rich Barnett is the Robin Masters of
when I first saw this, I thought he was talking about Red Robin, the restaurant chain.
No. Robin Masters. That's a good one. Yeah. Because
this is one of the shows I've heard of, but I've never actually seen. It's
I have the whole entire box set. I've collected them as they came out. I'm a huge fan of Magnum PI. Also, my stepdaughter is as well. And you never see Robin Masters at all.
I've never seen him anyway, so I've never seen the show. So.
No, he's always traveling. So basically, funny story with this, the character that maintains the Robin Masters estate, his character's name on the show is Jonathan Higgins.
Oh, really?
Yes. So he's, Magnum is always calling him Higgins, but you rarely hear Jonathan Higgins. But yeah, his character name is Jonathan Higgins, which is kind of funny. So
so I thought it was Magnum.
Magnum PI lives on the estate because he's living in the guest house on the estate. And then Jonathan Higgins maintains the estate, so he lives in the main house.
So it's two different guys. Okay.
Two different guys, yeah. So Robin Masters is the owner of the estate. Jonathan Higgins maintains the estate. And then Robin Masters allows Magnum PI to live in the guest house. And of course, Magnum drives Jonathan Higgins crazy with all of his shenanigans.
Just like I do with you, right?
Yeah.
So I'm Magnum and you're
Jonathan Higgins. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's led to believe that there is no Robin Masters. I don't know. They kind of left that up in the air in the storyline.
Yeah.
Some people speculate that Jonathan Higgins is really Robin Masters. So I haven't watched all the way to season 8.
It's like that TV show with what's that blonde Farrah Fawcett. Didn't she have a TV show where they had the same type of thing where you never saw the boss?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
Charlie's Angels.
And you've watched Seinfeld, right?
I've seen a few of them. Yeah, not the whole thing. I've seen a couple episodes here and there. The Soup Nazi guy,
Yeah, I mean they have the owner of the baseball team that George Costanza works at, I can't remember, Steinberg or
Oh yeah, the Yankees.
George
Steinem. Yeah,
So
Yeah.
so they have somebody doing his voice, but you never see the character on camera.
Oh,
And
okay.
so it's kind of one of those things. But this with Robin Masters, we've never seen him in any of the episodes. But that's
All right.
really, I love that comment. I just love it. Thank you so much, Dave, for posting that one.
Yeah. Let's see here. So tomorrow night is is New Year's Eve. So if you're going to be out and about, be responsible. Have a designated driver. These days, you're probably better off celebrating at home.
Yeah.
So we have my wife and I always buy a bottle of champagne for New Year's, but neither one of us like champagne. So when we were out at the store the other day, we found this little bottle of champagne that's about this big, just enough to have 2 shots of champagne. So 12 o'clock comes by. If we're still awake, we'll pop open that champagne. We'll toast each other and then go to sleep. Half the time we don't even make it till midnight. So,
Hey, the way this show is going tonight, if this was on New Year's Eve, we'd be at the point of almost midnight, and you would have.
Is it tomorrow yet? Is it tomorrow?
Not quite.
We're getting there.
We're 57 minutes to midnight on the East Coast. So.
Oh boy. Well, sorry for keeping you guys awake tonight, but hey, it's entertainment. So, okay. So Lincoln asks what SMA is. So SMA is a type of antenna connector. So if you've got a Bearcat 125 or 325, you have a Bnc connector, which is a round thing that sticks out, and
it's got little knobs on the side. It's hard to see, Rich.
There
you
see
go.
The 2 little knobs there. That's a Bnc connector. An SMA connector looks like this. It's outside threads. It's got a little insert. It's quite a bit smaller than the Bnc. So there's an SMA and a Bnc together. So it's a little bit smaller, and you can see what they look like there. So an SMA is a threaded connector, whereas a Bnc is a bayonet connector. And I'm trying to put my SMA antenna on my Bnc radio. It doesn't work. We do sell adapters that allow you to share antennas between those, but you're usually better off buying a Bnc antenna for a Bnc radio and an SMA antenna for an SMA radio. And I don't remember what the abbreviations. The Bnc is a bayonet something connector, and the N stands for the name of the guy who I don't remember off the top of my head. There's an abbreviation for the guy who came up with the connector. But they're the 2 antenna connectors. Smaller radios tend to have the SMA, and larger ones tend to have the Bnc.
You know what? That sounds like a good show we should do again is connectors.
Yeah.
Antenna connectors. So definitely that'll be something that we should definitely do in 2021. Any other questions in there?
Yeah, real quickly, the question about Unitronker before asked us if apparently I misread the question. Ron helped clarify it. The Unitronker question before asked if we modify scanners to make them work with the Unitronker. No, we do not do scanner modifications. There are a bunch of YouTube videos and descriptions of how to do those modifications, but we do not do those. So, and let's see here. Gert is in the Netherlands, so he's hoping for a scanner that will support the Dutch database. Maybe that'll be the Home Patrol 3. It'll also support the Netherlands.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
There's going to be one of these times that, we're going to say something that's going to make news on Radio Reference.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and let's see here. A lot of people were surprised about the Jonathan Higgins thing on that TV show. Higgy, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, TC would call him Higgy. Higgy Baby, which is TC's the guy that Magnum knew that had island hoppers, helicopter rides. And of course,
Okay.
Magnum is a PI, so of course he would use the helicopter as his own personal island hoppers. And he would get TC in all types of situations, people shooting at his helicopter, the whole 9 yards. You know, there's a cast of characters. There's, I could spend a little bit of time talking about that. But yeah, there's you know, I actually spoke to one of the characters from the show over the phone. I did him as a mystery guest for a morning show that I worked on, and he was really awesome to talk to him. Larry Minetti, I think, is the pronunciation of his name, and he was a cool guy. I spoke to him on the phone.
Okay, so Ray had looked up the connection. The BNC stands for Bayonet Neil Councilman, and Neil and Councilman are two guys who developed the that and several other connectors. So thank you very much, Ray. That was extremely helpful. There was a question from Dave. What are the minimum requirements for a laptop intended to stream Broadcastify? And because he's not a computer guy. You don't need a big, fancy, powerful computer to run streaming. So basically, if you can run Windows 7 or Windows 10 on the computer and have a good internet connection, it'll probably be good enough for streaming. So that is about what we've got. Oh, we got one other question from Pete about the unication pager. Is it similar to a scanner? So you're the unication guy, so you take it away.
It is like a pager, but it's convenient enough to be a scanner. So a lot of times, these pagers were basically so you would monitor a system, and when they would tone out, you would hear the notification. And then these radios, you're able to monitor the system, scan it, and you could put it into zones. So this is not a radio that you can field program. It is. Right. I feel like I should be working for East Coast Pager.
Well, we used to sell them, so that's why we're familiar with them.
So let me just put up his slide. And you make sure, if you do purchase one, tell them that the scanner guys sent you. Phil operates East Coast pagers. So you can see right there's a photo of a G5, which I have right in my hand. This radio will basically monitor. You can monitor different systems, but you can't monitor them all together. So you have to pick what system you want to monitor, program in those trunk talk groups. Also program, let me get rid of that. Program in, the sites that you want to monitor. This is more complicated programming. It's more like programming an actual two-way radio. So it's not something that...
And the performance is like a two-way radio as well.
Yeah, I mean, this works phenomenally well in simulcast. The battery lasts for a long time. It's certainly a really good unit, but if you're looking for a true scanner that's similar to the performance of this, SDS 100 and 200 are going to be the route you want to go, and those are going to be more like a traditional scanner. This is not a traditional scanner. It has to be programmed, by computer, and then it's like that until you change it.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason these became so popular in the scanner community is before the SDS 100 came out, it was really your only option to successfully monitor a simulcast system without resorting to, very directional antennas and stuff like that. And it really was the only solution to the simulcast issue until the SDS came out. And scanner people realized that they could, set this up to do that. And the folks at Unication saw how popular these were at the scanner community and started making some subtle changes to the radio and allowed their retailers to market it as such. As long as you understand the limitations and are good with that and have the ability to do your programming or are willing to pay somebody to do that programming for you, it's a good alternative. Otherwise, get the SDS 100 or the SDS 200, and that'll work as well.
And that's for sure. And
Yep.
I just want to, before we wrap things up, I wanted to, let me just go, whoops, wrong thing. There we go. It's 3 hours in. So
Yeah.
I'm,
A little punch happy. Yep.
yeah. So getting back to setting up a feed, go to broadcastify.com. Lindsay Blanton, which is the CEO of Radio Reference and Broadcastify, really created an awesome site for Broadcastify. So if you have questions about setting up a feed, click on this right in the middle, the broadcast button. It's going to bring you here. It's going to be what it's all about. And it's also going to have audio feed details so you can find out what's needed. And you can read more about what's required and what things are restricted. He really lays out a really good description of all that on the website. So take a look at broadcastify.com and you can check out how to become a feed provider.
And you can even download the software that you need to do it from.
Yeah, and you can definitely take a look at everything, make sure everything's compatible and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah, Ron brings up a valid point. Going back to the Unication radio, yeah, you can only scan 64 talk groups at a time. At the same price, you can get a true scanner such as the SDS. So it's just depending on your need. I use this all the time here because, you know, when I was in Massachusetts, I didn't have hardly any digital. Here I've got tons of it. And it just works well because I can just grab this and you know, hop in the wife's car and have a scanner to listen to. She doesn't have a scanner in her car, so it gives me the ability to be able to do that. So what we're going to do is going to wrap up a couple of slides real quick. You know, if you're interested in Unication radios, make sure you check out our friends over at East Coast Pagers, your emergency alert specialists. East Coast Pagers is an authorized Unication dealer, proud to support public safety professionals, businesses, and individuals. Give them a call at 1-877-231-PAGE or visit them online at eastcoastpagers.com. And let me just advance the slides. And we want to remind you that the Scanner Guys are brought to you by Scanner Master. So, you know, make all your scanner purchases through scannermaster.com or give them a call Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at 1-800-722-6637. That's 1-800-722-6637. They're open Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We are closed on Friday because of New Year's Day. We will reopen on Monday of next week. We are open for a portion of the day tomorrow. So if you want to get in your question before the weekend, make sure you give us a call at 10 a.m. The phones may be busy, so stay on the line. We'll get to your calls as soon as possible. And that number again is 1-800-722-6637. You'll be lucky enough to either speak to myself or Rich on the phone. We'll be happy to help you. And as always, you can shop Scanner Master online 24/7 at scannermaster.com. Next week's show, we're going to be talking about mobile shacks. We're going to give you some tips and suggestions and recommend some products, you know, some of which we sell at Scanner Master. And we may even show some products that are not available through Scanner Master, but they're available through other vendors. We will definitely show that off to you. So Wednesday, January the 6th of 2021, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We will be live here on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications when we post a new video. Train Aficionado Live will be on before our Scanner Guys show. You can join myself and Rich Carlson Monday, January the 4th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, where we're going to be looking at abandoned railways, how to find them, and we'll talk about that in great detail. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on the Train Aficionado Facebook page. Make sure you follow and like and subscribe to their social media as well on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And make sure you check out the Train Aficionado blog as well at trainaficionado.com. Follow, like, and subscribe to the Scanner Master social media on YouTube, Instagram. Follow, like, and subscribe to the Scanner Master social media on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Scanner Master Co. If you're looking for Instagram, Scanner Guys are on Instagram, and they're also on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, the Scanner Guys are brought to you by Scanner Master. And also remember, as Dale mentions, you can still order those Scanner Guys hats and T-shirts. Those help us to be able to get some new tools for the show. You can check those out on our store on our website. thescannerguys.weebly.com is the website. thescannerguys.weebly.com. Thank you so much, Dale, for reminding me of that. And what is this? Will, thank you so much for popping in and out.
He's in and out.
You're probably saying, "Oh my God, they're still on."
Yeah. I think this has been our longest show yet. So we said we had a lot of viewers. I think we set a record for the amount of viewers that we had tonight. And this is probably the longest show because we had a lot of comments to go through, and we did good. So
yeah, Alicia, that's something that we should definitely I'll look into to see if we can do some coffee mugs, Alicia. Yeah. That would be a good one. I will look into that.
Coffee.
Yeah, or tea.
Well, I don't think I was a cop for 30-something years. I've had 2 cups of coffee in my life because it was 27 below zero and I was frozen.
Yeah, I don't stand
the taste of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, hot chocolate for me is the extent of it.
Yeah. Now, having been a cop, I do eat donuts, but coffee is I've never, I don't do coffee. So,
well, I thank you so much for everybody that's stuck with us for now 3 hours and 20 minutes. We appreciate. Oh, Dale.
yeah. Give that to your wife for birthday, and and you'll be living in the doghouse.
What is the Scanner Guys? Oh yes, hot chocolate. Yeah. So Alicia's thinking the same thing as me. Hot chocolate is definitely on some of these cooler nights. We thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate you. We've done a whole slew of shows. Yep. This year we've done probably about 50 some odd shows, and we're happy that you guys join us each and every week, and we appreciate it. Let's hope that 2021 brings us a better year of everything.
God knows it can't get any worse, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. Everybody stay healthy out there. Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. Oh, I would kill for Krispy Kreme right now.
Yeah, Krispy Kreme. Oh, we could be on here for another hour talking about Krispy Kreme.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, Scanner food.
We'll definitely have to do another one of those shows again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to thank everybody for joining us. I hope you had a lot of fun. We certainly do each and every week. Let's wrap this up. I'm Jonathan Higgins.
I'm Rich Carlson.
Have a great and safe New Year's. We'll catch you in 2021 on the Train Aficionado show first, and then the Scanner Guys show on Wednesday night.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.